Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you to the Coeur d'Alene School District 271 regular board meeting of April 10th, 2023. Will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce our participants for this evening. Starting at my far right is Ms. Marianne Southwick, Clerk of the Board, Dr. Sean Hawker, Superintendent. To my immediate left is Mr. Casey Morrisroe, Vice Chair, Ms. Leslie Bierke, Board Member, Ms. Heather Tenbrink, Board Member, Ms. Allie Anderton, Board Member, and I'm Rebecca Smith, Board Chair. Public comment on district-related items is scheduled near the start of the meeting. Please sign in on the sheet provided at the entrance door. Comments may also be submitted to the board via email at trustees@cdaschools.org or in writing through the clerk. Thank you. Let's go ahead and approve our agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're going to follow our agenda. First up tonight, we do have celebration of all of our Teachers of the Month.
All right, I've been trying to get my notes organized. There's a lot this month. It's just awesome. All right, so first we have Kat Sauser. This is the March Teacher of the Month at the elementary level. She's a kindergarten teacher at Skyway Elementary. And I'm sorry, I did not get my notes fully organized. Her principal says, Miss Kat has an exploratory classroom for kindergarten students to help them develop a deep love of learning. So congratulations, Miss Sauser. Next, we have Kate Pratt. She is a 7th grade English language arts teacher at Canfield Middle School. Her teacher, one of her fellow teachers, says she has extensive content knowledge and uses a vast repertoire of reading and writing strategies to drive instruction. Additionally, Mrs. Pratt sets high expectations and holds her students accountable for their learning. So congratulations, Mrs. Pratt. At the high school level, our Teacher of the Month is Jennifer Brown. She is a multimedia teacher at Coeur d'Alene High School. Her principal said, since coming to Coeur d'Alene High School last summer, Mrs. Brown's dedication and unwavering focus have proven to be invaluable in resurrecting the school's multimedia program. Undoubtedly, the Viking community has directly benefited from Mrs. Brown's inexhaustible commitment to Coeur d'Alene High School. So congratulations, Mrs. Brown. And then we get into our elementary, or our Teachers of the Year. So our elementary Teacher of the Year and our overall Educator of the Year was Rita Roth. She's a 5th grade teacher at Bora High School. This is her 6th year in the Coeur d'Alene Public Schools, and her colleagues said she incorporates multiple technologies into her lessons, builds a community of learners. Students make and reinforce their own growth goals, and she is an effective grant writer for many classroom items. So congratulations to Mrs. Roth. For middle school, our Teacher of the Year is Mrs. Lilyquist. She is a social studies teacher at Woodland. Her colleagues, this is her 11th year at Woodland. Previous to that, she spent 9 years at the elementary level, so she's been with the Coeur d'Alene School District for 20 years. And her colleagues said, this is an individual that is deeply respected by her students, fellow teachers, and administrators. Her dedication to the profession is noticeable by all. So congratulations, Mrs. Lilyquist. Our high school Teacher of the Year was Mr. Kerr, Brad Kerr. He's the multimedia teacher at Lake City High School. His principal said that this teacher seeks to constantly empower his students to take ownership of their learning. His students have earned over 500 industry certifications and gone to many multiple state competitions. So congratulations to Mr. Kerr. And I believe this is the first year for this award, right? The inaugural year of our Administrator of the Year is Lisa Pica. She's a principal at Hayden Meadows Elementary School. Her colleagues said that she has a constant willingness to mentor others and strong instructional leadership throughout all the schools. This is her 25th year in the Coeur d'Alene Public Schools, and they said she puts her others before herself, is a high energy and focused leader and a reliable friend and supporter of all of our elementary schools. So congratulations, Mrs. Pica. And then for Rookie Teacher of the Year at the elementary level, it was Jessica Osborne. She's a first grade teacher at Bora Elementary School. And I've lost my... Oh dear. Sorry, these are a different order than I had in my packet. Okay. Her colleagues said she is data-driven and shares decision-making with grade-level colleagues. She personally communicates with families to provide updates on events, learning targets, and lesson details. She also communicates specific learning standards and what they can do at home to support their own child's learning. So congratulations, Mrs. Osborne. And then our Rookie Teacher of the Year at the middle school level is Max Garrett. Trent Derrick, who's our Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Instruction, said it was a pleasure to honor this year's Coeur d'Alene Rookie Teacher of the Year. This is an individual that cares deeply about his students, is respected by his fellow teachers, and is appreciated by his administrators. And congratulations to Mr. Garrick. And for the high school level, Rookie Teacher of the Year is Lexi Walker. She's the choir director at Coeur d'Alene High School. And she is respected greatly by her administrators and colleagues. This is an individual that has high expectations for her students. It's important to her that students feel a sense of purpose and belonging in the classroom and work both individually and collectively to meet high standards. Congratulations to Mrs. Walker. And also this month, the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber gave an A+ award to our school resource officers. So we are super grateful for them, and congratulations to them. All right. Thanks to everyone, actually, who's in our district. We appreciate everyone.
Great. Congratulations and thank you to everyone. Next up, we have our presentations from Coeur d'Alene High School and K-Tech. We'll start with video presentations from both of those two high schools.
K-Tech offers a number of hands-on opportunities for students to explore careers, learn industry skills, certifications, and think critically and creatively. Because of this, students look forward to and anticipate their K-Tech classes. After interviewing students from different K-Tech courses, we got to hear how K-Tech has impacted their lives.
My name's Joshua Averett. I am a student of CHS. I'm a junior. I joined the automated engineering course and I really like it because it's preparing me for my future. I'm hoping to go to college and to use my trade skills to forward my career.
My name is Connor Unruh. I go to Lake City High School and I'm a senior. The program I'm at K-Tech is the health professions. I'm in training to be a CNA. If I didn't have K-Tech, I probably wouldn't still be in traditional high school. This program has allowed me to find what career I wanted to go into, and it's helped me decide that I wanted to become a nurse and go to college.
My name is Lydia Davis. I'm a senior at Venture High School and I'm in the Communication Graphics K-Tech class. What K-Tech has given to me is it's given me a lot of opportunities that I probably would have gone out into the real world and not been able to achieve. I've gotten to do a paid internship and I've also just gotten to work with real clients, which has really opened my eyes to what this career could lead me to.
I'm William Byer. I'm a junior at Lake City High School. I'm in the welding program.
K-Tech has taught me a lot about workplace fundamentals and what it's like to be in a shop and dealing with heavy duty like materials and big equipment and everything.
Thank you.
Thanks, K-Tech, and now we have CHS.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, district employees, and valued community members. I'm Nate Bullock, the current ASB president of Fort Lane High School, and joining me tonight is ASB treasurer Andy Jane Howard, ASB secretary Kendall Hansen, and ASB vice president Gracie Shaver.
Our event during the month of March was a basketball tournament we called Minnow Madness. This was a basketball tournament that we held inside of our school between teams, and they played, and then we had the championship game between Lake City's teams. It was overall a great success. We promoted a lot of unity between both Lake City and CHS and unity within our school. We had the opportunity to hold concessions and help support student council through that, and our winning team was the Grandsons.
We're also super excited this upcoming weekend on Saturday, April 15th. We have our SEAM prom. This year the theme is A Night on the Nile, and it will be starting at doors opening 6:30 and then finishing up around 10 o'clock. And we've been planning this for a couple of months now, and we're super excited to start our ticket sales this week.
Also on Monday, April 10th, we'll be heading to regionals for Stuco. Andy, Jane, and I and Nate will be doing a breakout room, and Gracie kind of planned the whole thing as our regional president, so we're super excited to learn some new things for next year. And then we also have ASB elections coming up this month and class elections coming up in May.
Gracie, Kendall, and I are going to miss student council a lot, and we've had such a fun year working with everyone in other schools. Annie Jane is also looking forward to working in another year.
Have a great day and roll bikes!
I'd like to welcome up then Lake City High School for your presentation.
I'll ask that question every time. Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, and district administration. My name is Jacob Carter, and I'm the ASB president at Lake City High School. Also with me today is my ASB vice president, Piper Stevens, and my ASB secretary, Olivia Azzolini. Last month was a busy one at LC. LC hosted the annual Math is Cool competition on Friday, March 10th, and we also put on our Minnow Madness 4-on-4 basketball tournament, with the championship being played against CHS. Our spring parent-teacher conferences were held last month and went very well. Throughout the month of March, our student council held a book drive to provide books for our local hospitals, Sacred Heart and Kootenai Health. We collected so many great children's books and got to deliver them ourselves as well as Match for the Mass Improv performance featuring Blue Room Improv Team versus Post Falls and their Orange Couch Improv Team. It went super well. We couldn't be prouder of our Lake City Blue Room Improv Team winning versus Post Falls, and the friendly competition brought in a lot of students for involvement and raised a lot of money in cans of food for the food drive. Our annual strobe dance was put on last Friday and was a huge success. Many kids showed up to our neon-themed dance, and the profit was amazing. More fundraising we did was our Mod Pizza fundraiser, where we teamed up with Mod Pizza to help raise money for prom by getting a % donation from them. For this month, we're focusing on getting our juniors ready for SAT on the 12th. Our college prep classes have been prepping since the start of the semester, so our students are feeling more confident and ready to go. We also have ASB elections coming up soon that we're excited to be able to introduce the new ASB officers at our next meeting. Additionally, on May 6th, our prom will be happening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, Lake City. Next up, we're going to hear from our student advisory group.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board members, Ms. Southwick, and the community for being here. My name is Luke Sharon. I'm the vice chair of our student advisory group.
And I'm Lindsay Overturf. I'm third chair of our student advisory group. And today we're going to start off with our middle school report from Francesca and Grace.
Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board members, and Miss Southwick. My name is Francesca Drake, and I'm a sixth grader at Lakes Middle School. At our March 21st meeting, we reviewed data from our second student survey. The biggest concerns were homework overload and lunch quality. Some of our ideas to improve school lunches were a salad bar or build your own bar each day, a wish list of items that we would like to see, like fruits and veggies and seasonal options throughout the year, making more options for the allergy section more accessible, and considering longer lunches.
Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board members, and Ms. Southwick. Hi, my name is Grace McAndrew, and I go to Canfield Middle School. Some of our ideas to improve schoolwork loads and stress were building in study time each day into our school schedules to replace the second exploratory. We would like to order student planners with all the school months, and we could have the teacher for each class mark off to make sure that the student had no missing assignments. It helps us be proactive with teaching organization and having a plan when students get behind. We have invited Mr. Derrick, principals, and Mr. Ed Duker to attend our meeting on April 26th to hear our ideas in more detail and gather feedback from them. And we are hoping to have some solutions for next year. Thank you for having us, and here's our elementary school advisor.
Hello. Hello, I am Preston Poole, fourth grader at Atlas Elementary. At our last meeting, we talked about the voting percentages for the school levy and how low they were. We hoped that voters would think about the children's education and extracurricular activities like SAG. I myself enjoy ALP and math at school. I very much enjoy art and designed our math at school shirts. We have invited Mr. Ducar, who is the nutrition administrator, to our next meeting because we have concerns regarding the school lunches. We would like water serviced for the children with lactose intolerance. We also would like to talk about the nutritional values of the lunch as a whole. At our last meeting, we talked about having kid counselors to better help relate with the kids at the school so they could potentially help kids deal with things that a counselor may normally help with. Who better to understand a child than a child themselves?
Thank you all, you guys. You guys did great. Now we're going to move on to our high school report. So first, we started off with our updated vaping policy. We talked about that. Everyone from our student advisory group, they were supportive of the changes being suggested, and we submitted a public comment on behalf of the students through SAG.
SAG also at our March meeting reviewed and discussed the video posted online regarding the female student at Coeur d'Alene High School encountering an individual in the female restroom. And, you know, we had a lot of discussion about the incident and other incidents relating to it. And the conclusion that was come to was that it seemed to be an isolated incident, and it was addressed by both the district and the state legislature at large. But nonetheless, all of us, you know, during our discussion, we had definitely a variety of opinions, but all of us could absolutely agree on one thing, and that is that we were all supportive of an environment where everyone feels safe, especially in restrooms.
And then we also talked about the list of books being challenged and potentially banned as per S 1100. We came up with a formal statement about how we feel about this potential book ban for high school students, and we would like to read that. The student advisory group does not support books being taken out of the school libraries except in cases of blatant pornography. We don't deem this list of books as inappropriate in our school libraries, and therefore we do not support their removal. High school students reading books with literary sexual content hold a level of maturity and accordingly are able to handle these topics. We have a definition for pornography, which is modeled after Idaho statute, and then we also sent that to the district.
And On a little bit of a different note, SAG at our last meeting actually has made a decision based off of surveying done within the district to look into the issue of lack of student sleep and the potential merit of kind of changing school start times, in the Coeur d'Alene School District. So.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone, and that will conclude our SAG report for this month.
Terrific. Thank you all for all of your work and for your feedback. And do we have any questions for any of our SAG students? Thank you all for being here and for participating. Next up, we have our Coeur d'Alene Education Association report. Mr. Aaron Hayes. Or are you going to? Those are questions, though. Nope. I don't think so. Nope, we've got your written report. Appreciate that and all your work. Great. Next up, we have board member conference recap, and Trustee Anderton went to Florida recently.
Yes.
I
got to attend the inaugural COSBA, which is our National School Board Association conference this last week in Tampa, Florida. And let's see, I'll pull this up. I have a bunch of notes that I'd have to say that being only one board member from our district that went to this conference made it very difficult for me to be able to take in all of the information that was available there, just because there were so many amazing work sessions made available to all the trustees across the nation that it made it hard to choose which ones to go to. I ended up deciding on words matter, meaning what we say and saying what we mean to advance student achievement. Navigating a perilous path from crisis to healing, the school board's role when the unfathomable happens. Trending up, how a school district moved from level 1 to level 5 during a pandemic. Planning for the future, teacher preparation, staffing, and retention. Deliberate performance evaluations, a significant and underutilized tool to strengthen board superintendent relationships. Governance team actions that lead to student achievement. And let's see, building a strategic plan for a 5-year span, sometimes 3 years is better, and elevating student voice at the governance level. And I just like to say, first of all, as far as the last learning session that I attended, everything that I heard in that time fully supports what we're doing with SAG right now, and that actually fulfilling that need within our districts. Some of the things that I took away from overall, the picture from the conference was community involvement and support is essential to our district's success as well as student achievement. Having that buy-in from the community and working together definitely significantly impacts all of that. Also, one of the things I wanted to share, this is Henry County Schools strategic plan, and the entire thing fits on these 2 pages. And I thought that that was an amazing way. We've been talking about that with the ISBA conference as well, as to streamlining things. But the process that they go through is actually many, many months long, but getting information from, gathering feedback from the community, leadership within the district, the board, and also teachers and staff throughout the district. So it was an amazing opportunity to network and meet more trustees from across the country, to find out what their challenges are that they're facing, and to we shared emails and talked about so many different issues that we're all sharing across the country right now, and there are so many resources out there for all of us to reach out to and use. So I'm excited about possibly going next year as well, and hopefully the rest of you will want to go too. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for going and representing us. I heard, Ms. Southwick, you said it's in Dallas. It's a little closer maybe next year in February. So, all right, great. Thank you. Thanks. All right, we're going to move into public comment then, unless there's any other questions for Trustee Anderton. Any of those things that you think some of those topics are really interesting. Love to see some of the resources maybe on them for everything.
They shared PowerPoints for almost every single one of the sessions that I went to, and I have a lot of notes that I took on each one. I just typed up a quick bullet point of the highlights that I can share with everybody tonight if you want. And
Yeah,
then
I'd appreciate
I'd love
that.
to talk more about the rest of it. It was a really amazing experience.
Yeah, thanks. All right, we're going to move into public comment this evening. I want to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that takes place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It's a meeting of the board to conduct district business. The board does allow public comment on district-related items, which is limited to no more than 45 minutes unless a majority of the board votes to extend our time frame. Those wishing to address the board during this public comment period are limited to one comment not to exceed 3 minutes. At the designated time, you will be called to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence. Please keep in mind that the board members will not respond to public comment. If you have handouts for the board, please give them to our clerk, who will give them to the board on your behalf. If I determine that an individual's statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate the speaker's privilege to address the board. If you have additional comments that you would like to be presented to the board, you may provide those comments in writing to the clerk of the board, who will ensure that the board members receive this additional commentary. Because I'd like to be able to move through as many of these, and if we move quickly, we'll be able to get a bunch of them, and then we can talk about it at the 45-minute mark for sure. If we could limit this evening clapping and cheering, we know that there's a variety of opinions in the room on everything. That'll help us be able to move forward. So that would be great. All right. This evening, then, I'd like to welcome Mark Price up to the board, up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? It's working? Okay, I'm just want to get into some community feedback. There's a lot that's went on since the last time we had a chance to public comment, and I think everybody in this room...
Where are you from, Mr. Price?
I'm sorry, I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Thank you.
So, and I'm addressing the board here. I just want to make sure I understand the way this school system operates. The board is elected by the taxpayers. I think that's right. The board, or the previous board, elected the superintendent we have now. What I witnessed at the last meeting is reprehensible. To watch a hired superintendent address our elected board the way it was addressed. There's no excusing that. As far as I understand it, the board decides to extend or withdraw a contract from any superintendent. So we also saw up here on this board, I call it Chicken Little, the sky's falling list of things that you were demanded to pick from so we could keep our children's sports programs. Well, let me explain. I'm going to give you some information that you probably don't know about this last hire. So Dickinson County, North Dakota, and I'm going to make a quote, and this is from your current superintendent. The district could also market the need within the buildings and have banners on cars and signs in the yard. This is concerning a bond referendum. That's one quote. Second quote is, this is from your current superintendent, there are going to be some tough decisions for the future that could include half-day kindergarten or cutting some courses at the high school. Does that sound familiar? We just heard that. It's a pattern. Last time I checked, we don't allow bullying in our schools. Why is the school board going to put up with demanding you pick from a hand-picked, cherry-picked list that your superintendent put up without all the facts? It's dire consequences. He's went to our schools, involved our children in this. I don't know if he had anything to do with the walkout or not, but I can tell you this: he goes to the school one day, the children have a walkout that Friday. Okay, there's no sense in including our children in adult situations. And I would think that you would have a superintendent that would know this without a citizen have to explain this. What wasn't presented is this list of woke agenda categories that can be cut from our school programs. Our children deserve sports. They deserve band. They deserve swimming. They deserve everything. And if you operate within the budget with a minute amount of help from this community, you can accomplish that. But what I heard at the last meeting, You made a concession, and then you get a superintendent that you hired tell you no. That's unacceptable. You pick right now. Well, the citizens don't like that, and we're not going to tolerate that. And I will close with this. Once again, the board doesn't answer to the superintendent of schools. You answer to the citizens. The superintendent answers to the school board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Amber Sear?
My name is Amber Sear. Can you hear me? Amber Sear, Hayden, Idaho.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Amber Sear, Hayden, Idaho. I would like to start out with asking who pays for the SROs? Is the school district fully responsible for the SROs, or are they full-time employees with the police department and sheriff's office? Or do we does the school pay a supplemental income for them for working at the school? Because school safety is a top priority for all families from both sides of the aisle. That's something that we can't lose. Another question would be why sports and extracurricular activities would be completely done away with, seeing how it was stated that the state pays for 75% of the school's operational budget. So doesn't that mean that we would have to come up with the remaining 25% of the children's sports and extracurricular activities? I'm sure that there are parents here that would donate time and money to help figure something out for our kids. On another note, Trustee Smith stated on March 20th, 2023, and I quote, "Our leadership over the last 8 years, we have had 4 superintendents during that time. And any time a large organization such as ours that is about people has a new leader, it takes time and energy to get behind the vision, the mission, vision, and the values of that organization. That just doesn't happen overnight. Maybe the board and the administration should ask themselves, why is that? Why 4 supers in the last 8 years? Ask themselves why the community is saying no to these levies. Could it be because we are anti-everything per Dr. Hawker's comment in the CDA press? Or better yet, and I quote, "The non-supporters primarily hung their hats on the perpetuity piece per Dr. Hawker on 3/15/23 in the idahoeducationnews.org? Or was it when Superintendent Hawker stated on 3/20/23 in this very room that maybe some of the community does not understand what perpetuity means? Let me enlighten you. This community, the majority, has not changed. The community here still believes in faith-based Christian values. They have morals, moral compass, they living within their means, raising our children to believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, raising our children to have common sense and to be accountable. Why would we lower the bar for you? We see what is going on in our school district. We see the division being created between our children and their parents when the board passed the policy 2300P, which allowed counselors to keep certain information about their children from parents. We see the transgender restroom issue. We see the inappropriate books in our library issue. We see the misappropriation of funds happening in our schools.
And that's 3 minutes.
We see the woke agenda creeping into our schools. We see what's going on with the rest of the country. We see and we keep ourselves informed. We investigate to make an informed decision. These are the people in your community that maybe don't believe in this organization's mission, vision, and values. These are the people
please
that
wrap
you
up.
are asking to support this levy. Remember that.
Thank you. Megan Slauson?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, it must be on. I'm Megan Slauson, and I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. There has been a topic of discussion on the national stage for many years now. Parents all over the country demanding school boards and superintendents remove certain inappropriate books from the hands of children. This is not new. There is no claiming of, I had no idea this book was in our school district. Why does it take the parents in the CDA school district to point out these books? Why isn't this administration on top of this? Why the pomp and circumstance of a committee and a discussion and a vote when the superintendent is the one who ultimately makes the decision? Why not just make the decision? There are comprehensive lists of books that should not be in the hands of kids. Start there. I know of the process. I know of the concern of the First Amendment violation, but you can be reassured that 2 Supreme Court decisions would back you up. Bethel School District number 403 versus Fraser declared a school has a duty to protect minors from exposure to indecent materials. And in Board of Education versus PICO, the ruling says that a library book may be removed if the reason for removal is the book is pervasively vulgar. You can just do it. Just remove it. There's no banning of books. It's not being banned. It's just taken out of a place where kids can look at it, read it, listen to it. I was going to read some excerpts from a book that is available right now on the Sora, but there's kids in here. I can't possibly read these excerpts from the book because not in good conscience could I do that. But I do have a printout. I printed out and highlighted some of the stuff that you guys can take home and maybe ask yourself, would I read this to my kids? Would I let my kids read this? Just think about that. Sorry, I can't read the excerpt, so it's not my full comment, but just, yeah. I just, what's going on in the school district? I mean, why isn't this of more importance, more of a priority? I mean, it's, like I said, it's been on the national stage for like over 2 years now. You know about it. I'm sure the people in education all across the nation that you probably know have been talking about it.
And that's 3 minutes. Thank you.
I just don't get it.
Thank you. Megan Arnes. And Jessica Arneson.
Hi, my name is Jessica Arneson, and I live in Coeur d'Alene High School, or Coeur d'Alene. I'm a junior at Coeur d'Alene High School. I have one more full year of high school left. However, I'm speaking on behalf of the current and future students of the Coeur d'Alene School District. I've been educated in the Coeur d'Alene schools since kindergarten. Most of my years in school, I've looked forward to going to school. As I aged, I looked forward to not only to learning, but also choir, events, dances, clubs, and activities. Voting no puts each of these at risk. Recently, I was having a conversation with some of my friends on the bus. The levy came up. That day, we were being driven by a substitute bus driver. He shared that he might lose his job if the next vote doesn't pass. After sharing his concerns, he continued with thought patterns that confused me. He shared that he voted no on the previous vote because he didn't want to pay $2,500. I was sad and confused to hear how misguided he was. Clearly, he had not done his research. The average homeowner of Cooney County would be paying a little over $6 a month. If I was a taxpayer, I would not think twice about having to contribute less than 2 lattes worth to ensure young people have every possible opportunity in school. The sacrifice is too great and the loss is too much. We would be losing teachers, librarians, sports, activities, and teacher training. We would also be losing paraprofessionals. This upsets me because after spending time as a teacher's assistant in the special education classroom, I saw firsthand how dedicated the paraprofessionals at CHS are. People who vote no are telling teachers they don't care. They don't care about their kids' safety. They don't care about their kids' education. They don't care about the future of this little town in North Idaho.
I've never met a teacher who's become a teacher for the money. They didn't do it for the fame. They want to make a difference. Teachers teach for the kids. My father is an excavator who has no college degree. He makes significantly more money than teachers do. My dad makes more money digging holes in the dirt than nearly all the faculty who work at the school districts. These people have college degrees. They take care of our city's children every day. Voting no for the levy means they're voting no against the kids, us, the students, me. We are the ones who need to be with teachers. They can teach us what we need to know. We need everyone to vote yes. We need to pass to keep our schools intact. We need them so that we can have sports, choir, events, dances, clubs, and activities. School is more than just a classroom. We need to vote for safety. I cannot vote. I am not 18. It's in your hands to make it possible for me to enjoy my last year of high school. Vote yes for the kids, for the neighbors' kids, for the kids who are about to start kindergarten at Bora. Vote yes for other people's kids. Vote yes for the future of the future students at the Coeur d'Alene School District. The power is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Mara Thorhaug.
Okay, is this on? Yeah. My name's Mara Thorhaug. I'm from Coeur d'Alene.
Speak into the mic.
I'm from Coeur d'Alene, and like several of the speakers here tonight, I'm here as a concerned citizen, but I'm also here to thank you. I want to thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Hocker and the more than 1,000 teachers, administrators, and staff in this district. I want to thank every single person who works day in and out to make our schools extraordinary. I currently have 2 children at Bryan Elementary, and after 4 years, I'm still blown away with the quality of their education. This year, Bryan was one of 4 elementary schools that was in the district recognized by the State Board of Education with 2 separate awards, one based on achieving targets and one which is given to schools that are in the top 10th percentile of the state. 4 of our schools, and I think that's incredible. That doesn't happen by chance. It's a direct result of long-term hard work from a well-functioning team, including teachers, staff, administrators, and of course the students. So awards and recognitions sound great, but to me, it's the day-to-day education that matters, and that has been truly outstanding. My kids don't just memorize facts. They are learning to understand mathematical concepts. They're learning techniques for writing essays that I was taught in middle school. And they learn persistence as they run laps around the schoolyard, even in the pouring rain, with Mrs. Nixon cheering them on. Mrs. Powell helps them develop memorization skills, which are critical in education, as they learn the words, rhythm, and dance moves to the songs for concerts. They experience firsthand how practice truly pays off. Last week, my 3rd grader taught me about tessellation, a concept that Ms. L introduced in art that I had never heard before. They're even learning how to be digital citizens, including internet etiquette, literacy, and safety, some things that I think all of us adults could even learn. And Mr. Myers, the skills you teach them will be invaluable as they grow into adulthood, because it's critical to be able to recognize and mediate your own emotions to resolve conflicts. I believe education is a gift. It gives people the tools they need to achieve their dreams. My children are receiving an exceptional education from the most dedicated people that I could imagine. The credit goes to everyone behind the scenes, the hundreds of people making it all work so well. Thank you for all that you do, and for all of the 10,000 kids in this district. You're all giving them the tools to achieve their dreams. Please keep doing what you're doing because it's working. And I sincerely hope that our community pulls through and votes for continued academic excellence in Coeur d'Alene, because every single student and employee in the district deserves it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Jo Osler.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, Dr. Hocker, Chair Smith, board members, and Coeur d'Alene community members. My name is Kelly Osler, and I am 2 things, well, a lot of things, but I have 2 students in our district. I have an 8th grader at Canfield.
And where are you from?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm from Coeur d'Alene. Thank you. I have an 8th grader that goes to Canfield, and I also have a 5th grader that goes to Dalton. I teach special education at Dalton Elementary to K through 5th graders. And I just want to give you a little picture for those of you that don't spend at least a third of your day every single day in an elementary school, what it looks like. It's a magical place. Elementary schools are loud, boisterous, joyful, happy places filled with learning and love. They're just amazing. I see a head nod from an elementary school kid there. And here's what you'll see on a daily basis. These things and so many more I can't even begin to name. You'll see people who are fully committed to helping kids learn and grow and reach their full potential. And we do what we do not for the large paycheck, not for the kudos or the accolades. We do it because it's a high calling that we've been called to, and this is what we want to do to help kids grow. We've dedicated a huge part of our lives to it. You'll see staff members reaching into their own pockets to make sure that students have what they need: school supplies, money for field trips, winter clothes, materials and costumes for special projects. I could go on and on. I see every day one of our special education bus drivers, an assistant, whose bus is decorated for every season and every holiday, and greets my student every day with a smile and how you doing? And she gets to start and end her day with these joyful individuals, and they're so valuable. You'll see office staff and school nurses who are there to comfort little ones with bumped heads and scraped knees and all those things that are little and minor, bloody noses, but huge things like our diabetic students who need help with their medications, who have life-threatening seizures. Our nurses and our office staff are so valuable. You'll see custodians who allow students who might be struggling with a particular thing to shadow them for the day and come alongside them and do important work with them to give them something positive in their day. Lunchroom staff who lovingly prepares meals for our kids, and many of our kids with difficult lives who face hunger, these are their 2 for sure meals for the day. You're going to see school resource officers who do the super important job of keeping us safe, but my resource officer at Dalton, you're going to see him checking in with me on some of our kiddos who come from extensive trauma and shooting hoops with him and building Lego airplanes with him and laying on the floor and reading books with him. A fully officered
and that's 3
uniformed
minutes.
officer. I'm so sorry. I had so much more, but I just want to say, I know our middle schools and high schools are like that too on an age-appropriate level. It's this levy, there's so much at stake. There is so much at stake for 10,000 plus kids. We have to do this, Coeur d'Alene. It's time to be bold and get this job done. It's so important.
And thank
Please.
you.
Thank you.
Lindsay Swingrover.
The light is on. Can you guys hear me? Thank you, board members and superintendent. I appreciate your service to this community. I know it's not a thankful job, or it is a thankless job, sorry. I'm Lindsay Swingrover. I live in Coeur d'Alene, where I was born and raised. My 4 kids all attend Coeur d'Alene Public Schools from the Early Learning Center, which has been amazing. It's an experience we haven't had with our other kids, up to Lakes Middle School. I also spent 10 years as a school psych for the district, and also in the community, I've spent a number of years as a foster parent. I serve on my kids' school PTOs, the district long-range planning committee, and several local nonprofit boards. I care about Coeur d'Alene. I love it here, and I want to keep it amazing. I really appreciate, and I want to thank the board and the administration for the number of committees that are available to parents to be involved and to learn more. Long-range planning has been so interesting, and I'm a nerd, but I've learned so much about how the district works and numbers of students and why certain square footages are the way they are. It's been really fascinating, and I know there are just so many committees and ways to get involved and be included in what's happening. I appreciate that the district shows full transparency, And I know now that it was always available, but I didn't always realize just how easy it is to find every single dollar the district spends on the website. And I appreciate that it's clear that the admin and board have worked to make that a priority, that you care, that we all know that you are accountable in those ways. Yeah, and it's a comfort to know that for such a large organization where it would be easy for people to not notice things going wrong and money disappearing or whatever, that it's so clear. It's also been really interesting to learn how much state funding is exclusively for certain things, that the district can't just decide, well, we're going to cut X and spend it on sports now. So I really appreciate the incredible education my kids have gotten so far. My oldest did a year in private kindergarten, and I worried he'd be bored when he got to public school because it was half day and it was, not a lot. But it was shocking how much new and more effective instruction he got once he got to public school. And then full day kindergarten was rolled out between my second and third kids. And that was such a relief to our family. I was working for the district at the time. And to know that he was with the same people and there wasn't transition and somebody wasn't getting sick, and it was just one place for him all day long. And he learned so much and had such an amazing year. And I am working like every minute I'm awake right now to keep it for my next child.
And that's 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Jenny Nelson.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, Board of Trustees, Ms. Southwick, and community members. My name is Jenny Nelson. I'm from Hayden. I'm a teacher and a parent in this district. I've been teaching middle school now for 18 years, and the truth is, when I tell people I'm a middle school teacher, their response is usually one of three things. You're a saint. You must be so patient. Or simply, God bless you. I am most definitely not a saint. And I am the most impatient person I know besides my 7-year-old. I do appreciate the blessings, though, because here's the thing, teaching is hard every day, and I love it, like so many other amazing teachers in this district, for that very reason. There will never be a day where I can put my hands up and say, oh, that went perfectly, I'm done. There's no such thing as perfect, and I never will be. I am, however, a very reflective person. And this reflective stance is what has led to my greatest discoveries about teaching and supporting all students. I might not get it right every time, and in fact, I know I won't, but I will always reflect and listen and consider all perspectives, the credible evidence and research-based best practices to make the most informed decisions I can in service to my students each day. This reflective stance is what I appreciate so much about this district, and clearly a large reason why I love working here. This district is not perfect, and it won't be, ever. But what we are is constantly and unwaveringly reflective, even when tough decisions need to be made, even when mistakes are inevitably made because we are, after all, human. We still and always will be considering how we can grow and be better in service to all students. And our district and this amazing board continues to be reflective of what they are hearing as concerns from our community members. We serve because we care about kids in this community. One of our Idaho 7th grade communication standards is to engage in collaborative discussions, evaluating the soundness of the reasoning and sufficiency of the evidence, and when warranted, modify their own views. Civil discourse is needed in our classrooms and in this community. Being willing to consider other perspectives is absolutely necessary. Thank you to our school board and Dr. Hawker for your constant reflection and leadership through these tumultuous times. I can't imagine my school without our librarian, our nurse, our sports, our band and orchestra, our SRO, especially with the lockdown that happened at Lakes last week. I can't imagine my school with so many colleagues that support students on so many levels and in so many ways. In my classroom, I say team a lot. Okay, team, let's get to work. Let's go. Team, you got this. We are a team in my classroom, in my school, in the district as a whole, and working together as a community requires us to be a team. If a quarter of the team is gone, it's going to be extremely difficult to play the game so that all our students can reach their fullest potential.
And that's 3 minutes.
Please vote yes. We need a full team. Thank you.
Ashley Reyes.
Is this on? I can't tell. Okay. Hi, I'm Ashley Reyes. I'm from Coeur d'Alene. I'm here to voice my support for the district and most importantly, our Fernand STEM Academy. When my son Oliver first started kindergarten at Fernand, I was so anxious about sending my baby into the world where he would now be taught and influenced by teachers and other children. I was scared of what all my boy was going to be exposed to, and when I went to leave crying at the first day of kindergarten, his teacher patted me on the back and said, "Don't worry, Mom, he's going to be okay." And let me tell you, she was more than right. My son has found community at Fernand STEM, irreplaceable friendships that one could call family. Fernand is his home away from our home. In the last 4 years, Fernand has nurtured my son in his education alongside me. Oliver is kind, compassionate, confident, and intelligent. All things his school has helped me and his dad reinforce in him. He is a brilliant reader, placing in the 90th percentile and earning himself a spot in an ALP class. In this smaller specialized class, the teacher thoughtfully curates materials that deepen the concepts related to his general education. These materials utilize his thinking strategies where she can then monitor his growth as he works to achieve his set goals. This class is vital to the growth and development of my boy's education. Fernand has sparked an interest and love for STEM with Oliver. That is science, technology, engineering, and math. Do any of you know how hard it is to get a kid excited about math? It's really hard, and they did it. In this class, Oliver learned how to produce a stop-motion video. He has always loved stop-motion movies, so this assignment was really exciting for him. He was incredibly proud of his group's hard work and finished project. This class also has a coding unit, which my son looks forward to learning because it can help him design a video game one day. Again, classes like this are absolutely vital to the enrichment of our community's children and their education. Without the levy passing, classes like this will no longer be within budget and available. Fernand and Bryan Elementary, which was pivotal for my education as well, will no longer be available or within budget. Collectively, 709 students home away from home will no longer be available. For those who actively work against this levy, that will be on you. I ask you, what is more important than supporting children of your community? The teachers educating them in our schools. These kids are the future of our community, and we need to fight to support them. I have always strived to teach my son to be the change you want to see in this world and to fight for what you love and what's right. So here I am today, fighting for our schools and the teachers whose voices are silent, and I'm choosing to lead by example. As you leave today, think about what example you are setting. Thank you to the board, thank you to our teachers, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you, Oliver. And Oliver is next. Oh, and Oliver is next.
My name is Oliver, and I'm here to tell you why I love and support my school. My school is at the risk of closing next year, and that really scares me. My school has helped me learn so much, like division and multiplication, reading, and to be kind and respectful to others. My favorite part of school is STEM. I love getting to create stuff in my STEM class. And my favorite thing I've created in STEM is my stop-motion movie. My group and I worked really hard on it, and it was really funny. Really funny. And in art class, I'm making a cardboard robot, which I'm really excited to finish it. And in my class with Mrs. B, we got to incubate eggs and hatch baby chicks. I love being in Mrs. B's class because she is really nice and she always helps us. And when we struggle, and she encourages us to do my best. Mrs. B respects me and the things I need to say. If Fernand closes, I won't get to see all my friends and my favorite teachers every day. And that really breaks my heart. I also will have to go to a new school, and I really don't want to. Who are we? Fernand STEM Academy. Scientists discovering worldly possibilities, using technology to understand reality, engineering things to make them work efficiently, using mathematics to help us think critically. Who are we? Fernand STEM Academy. We're brilliant, we're kind, and we're strong.
Thank you. Steve Casey?
Now, I know Steve Casey. I'm not sure he can follow that up. Nice to see you, Mr. Casey.
Well, thank you. It's going to be hard for me.
Let's put your mic up, though. So we put your mic up.
That's a tough job. I don't need that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because it's online.
It's
Steve.
online.
Okay. Do I need that?
Yeah, and let's turn it on. And
How's that?
there we go.
Well, as you can see, I have a lot of fun. I had more fun when I was principal at Coeur d'Alene High School for 17 years. And I look back at a meeting like this today, and my heart hurts. We're all in this together. We all have the same goal, and that is helping our kids. And we have to do that with hands together. We can't do it with our hands apart. My wife and I moved up here in 1977. We have been in Coeur d'Alene High School since that time, doing something. Some people wished I wasn't, but I was. And when I look up there at Mr. Morsrow and Mr. Nelson, where'd he go? They're two Coeur d'Alene High School graduates, and that was a struggle for those two guys, because they had me.
Not him.
Not him, but you. We have to get together. We have to bond. When we get in and see that picture of ourselves in that mirror, let's say to ourselves, we're doing the best we can. We can't do it if we're going to argue and fight. And it looks to me like maybe we've missed somewhere. We're not hooked up. We need to do that. But it bothers me a little bit when, I don't want to pay that either. Oh, by the way, I live in Hayden. I don't want to pay that kind of money either. None of us do. But the rationale is when you look around, you look at all the people that are growing. Look at the people that are coming to school here. It's going to change things, but I will tell you from experience, we've had to do this every 2 years forever. So there's another approach to it. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it isn't, but I'd like you to take advantage of it. Let me just tell you real quick. My son graduated from Coeur d'Alene High School, and he was a challenge. He's now into helping a store in a manager's way. My daughter is a teacher. Good for her. She's nuts, but anyway, I had 2 grandkids. One's working at Parker now, just graduated 2 years ago. And my granddaughter now took the dual credit. When she left Coeur d'Alene High School, she already had her degree. Now she's a junior at Boise State, saved over $23,000. There's opportunity there, and I know you're going to cut me off for 30 seconds. Please, every time you get up in the morning, it's like, how can we make it better? I don't agree, but how can we make it better? And we're going nowhere unless we are together. Thank you.
Thank you. Rowan Lair?
Oh, when does my time start?
Right.
Is it going?
Right. It's going.
Okay, my name is Rowan Lair from Lake City High School. Honestly, I was going to come up here and give it was going to be kind of sarcastic because I've heard a lot of opinions on voting no in regards to the upcoming levy. But honestly, I just want to talk a little bit about, how students are involved in this too, I guess, in a more serious way. So my mom is a teacher at Ramsey Elementary, and it's her first year here. And my dad is he works for the Forest Service, so I'm a little bit tied to the government, I guess. But I think that that's maybe why I've been so involved on this levy, and I think that's why it's kind of important for students to get involved in this levy is because it's going to affect us too, obviously. But like, my mom, she would almost certainly lose her position if, this levy were to fail, because, she's a new teacher. And I think it's, it shows on the, online, it's showing where that money's being spent. And if you just look at where the money is directly going to, like, you will see like the exact programs that are going to be cut. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about like what's actually going to be cut and what's not going to be cut. But I think at the end of the day, it's all online and it's all kind of shown. So I don't think it's fair to the teachers and the coaches and the staff that's going to get cut if we are to just fail this levy because of things we've seen online on Facebook, and then we don't go into that further and research it. I know within my school, within Lake City High School, they've definitely taught me to research everything that you disagree with. And I think, whenever I hear claims from the opposition on this levy, whenever I've talked with them, things like people saying we should abolish all public institutions, you really have to research into those claims. And I know I myself have, looked into these possibilities, but whenever I go online or, look into where the dollar's actually being spent, I find that I get a better understanding of, why my opinion on the levy is, the way it is. So, yeah, I think students should maybe, I encourage them to go online to look at where
And Rowan, that's 3 minutes.
the school is spending their money. And other than that, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Nolan Jarvis.
Hi. Oh, is it on? Yes. Oh, it turned off. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hi, I'm Nolan Jarvis. I'm from Coeur d'Alene. I go to Lake City High School. We are really hoping that the levy passes. I'm in a lot of extracurriculars, and so this would really impact me. I'm in a lot of the same extracurriculars as Rowan. We're both on the debate team. We do track and cross country. These are things that we enjoy. And yeah, if like the levy doesn't pass, I mean, our extracurriculars are directly impacted, if not cut, and that's really unfortunate. I've been doing a lot of these things since elementary school, since middle school, and I know me and many others have considered if the levy doesn't pass and our extracurriculars are cut, transferring to Post Falls, stuff like that. Because I mean, their levy did pass; they do have extracurriculars. So this is not the most fun, but yeah. And I've seen a lot of things online about how we're indoctrinated, and I just like to say that's not really true. I don't think I've been indoctrinated. I guess I wouldn't know, but and I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people say that this also isn't a student issue, and I'd say that it's my education, and I'd really I do think it is a student issue because ultimately it's our future. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kate Keinert.
Kate Keinert from Hayden. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, Chair Smith, trustees, Ms. Southwick. It's like old times being up here getting to talk to you guys again. Before stepping into the role I currently have as vice principal, which I love, I got to work at the district office for a number of years and oversaw a lot of things, including reading intervention programs and gifted and talented, what we refer to as advanced learning or ALP here in the district. Over the course of my years at district office, I received innumerable phone calls from parents of students new to Idaho, having moved from other states. These families were casually looking into the supports and programs we had to offer their gifted student or their student diagnosed with dyslexia or general difficulties in reading, sometimes their twice exceptional student navigating both dyslexia and giftedness. And without fail, my initial response would come as kind of a shock. Idaho doesn't allocate money toward establishing or sustaining programs for students who are identified as gifted and talented. They don't allocate money toward identifying or providing critical interventions for students who may be dyslexic. Though Idaho code exists for both of these, they are unfunded mandates. Dyslexia legislation gained traction only very recently and largely thanks to one of our own elementary students who shared her advocacy on Capitol Hill. And even then, $0 had been allocated to support the new mandate. Welcome to Idaho, I'd say. And without sarcasm, this is an awesome place, and there's a lot of good reasons to live here, but there are some trade-offs too, right? And one of them is this idea of local control, where we've been charged with making decisions using local dollars above and beyond what the state is willing to put toward our education if we choose to. And we have chosen to for a very, very long time. Coeur d'Alene relies on levy dollars to do right by the kids in our community. For years, Coeur d'Alene District has put levy dollars toward training teachers to help our students to learn to read, whether they are dyslexic or just struggling, thanks to our investment in a highly effective program called Orton Gillingham. Even local businesses who profit by helping students with dyslexia had called me to share how excited they are that our district would embrace such an effective tool to help kids read. That's really remarkable. And for years, Coeur d'Alene School District has put significant levy dollars toward advanced learning programs, ensuring we can provide every student with rigorous learning experiences, ensuring we identify and further challenge every student who's showing us they need more or deeper or even different educational challenges. Coeur d'Alene School District provides more programs to support gifted and advanced students because our community expects excellence and has for a really long time. These aren't whimsical initiatives. There's nothing woke about these goals. The supplemental levy, I mean, it's really not even that exciting. It's really fundamental things that we do.
And that's 3 minutes.
Help our kids. Thanks for your trust in us. We do our best. And thanks for giving me a couple minutes to show these 2 examples.
Trustees, we have 6 more to go. Would we like to finish? All right, great. Gina Brooks.
Good evening, and thank you to our school board and Mr. Hawker and all of our citizens that are here. And especially, I'm just thrilled to hear from the students. Aren't we lucky? For our future is sitting right amongst us. And I credit that to your families, of course, but to our schools. My son graduated from Lake City in 1996. I was on the Parents Advisory Council. My oldest granddaughter graduated from Coeur d'Alene High in 2010. And I volunteered at Boris School, Fernand School, and just been so impressed with being in the classrooms and just seeing the joy. It's been mentioned how happy the kids are, and just the learning is amazing to me. So I just wanted to really declare my unconditional support for our schools and for our future leaders. And I wanted to also, though I know that there's a number of folks that are really worried about their raising taxes, and my husband and I, we're on pensions, so we understand budgets are important. So I figured out, because the school board so wonderfully, or the school district, put on their website how you could calculate if the levy passes. And we're fortunate to be homeowners in this beautiful place, but it calculated for our home that we would be paying $10.58 more a month, which I could squeeze in our pension budget easily enough. And to think that that's all it would take to be able to keep these programs that the kids need. One of the things that we've learned, because after I retired from the Postal Service, I got involved with early childhood education. And we need extracurricular, what's considered extracurricular. Our brains don't even form fully until we're like age 24. So the arts, sports, all of these activities, they weave our brains together and make us better, fully functional citizens that can meet all the challenges that our changing world will offer. I also was concerned because, you know, I've read a lot lately about how much is put into incarceration and how many folks that are incarcerated have been undereducated. And I found out from looking at that higher education, this state puts in 26%, public schools, 87%, and Department of Corrections has risen to 204%. So for me, and I'm sure most everyone in this room,
And that's almost 3.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll close with this quote. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Gina, you're from Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, yes, I am.
Amy McCalmy.
Hi, I'm from Hayden. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it working? Okay. Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I first want to say, because I know there's been some talk amongst the community, that I actually have a daughter who plays for varsity soccer at Coeur d'Alene High School. So I have a vested interest, just like a lot of you in this room. I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, but I'm also very involved in the community. So I feel like part of what I'm saying, I'm not speaking for the whole community, but I'm speaking about for the people who I've been in contact with on a day-to-day basis and really out there. So first, I'd like to really commend our Superintendent Hawker for increasing the divide amongst the community. Last month, board member trustee Bjorky brought up the concern of the divide that's happening in the community and brought up how we need to work together to kind of just work on this, that we all want what's best for our kids. And instead, what I've seen over the past few weeks are constant threats. Maybe they're not threats because they actually happened. Canceling of sports and activities currently going on right now that have nothing to do with next year's budget, but we're preparing just in case. When we have the board meeting on Monday, there was no talk of things being canceled immediately. Yet on that Wednesday, notes were being sent home, or not even know if the notes were being sent home, but immediate cancellation of some of our sports and some of our activities, and children crying and not understanding why it had to be done in the middle of the semester. We understand if the levy doesn't pass, things might get cut next year. But we're talking about what is happening right now. This was already into the budget. When we talk about as a community that children should not be involved, this is an adult conversation. I understand our high school teens, they know what's going on. They're smart, and it's great that they're coming up here and speaking. But when you have 5th graders going home crying because their teacher's telling them that the levy doesn't pass, they're not gonna have these extra things, or you've got the bus drivers discussing it with the kids, this is unacceptable. As a parent, as an adult, if I'm having issues in my home about my budget, I'm not discussing those things with our children unless it applies to them at that moment. We don't know what's happening next year yet. So to put the pressure on these children of, if this doesn't pass, this is what's going to happen, and you're pitting parents against kids, this is why the community is upset. This is why we're wanting to vote no. Does anybody want larger class sizes? Nope. Do I want 300 teachers to lose their jobs? Nope. Do I want security guards to lose their jobs? Nope. Do I want the sports to get cut? No. But there's other ways of looking at this budget. I find it very interesting that the heartstrings of what's going to hurt our kids is what's getting cut from the budget, nothing else. So it's kind of like me with my household budget. If I go whining to my friend that I can't cover my electric bill, and she says, you know what, Amy, let's look at your budget. Gosh, you're taking the kids to the movies every single week.
And that's 3 minutes.
Maybe that's where you should cut and not cut the electric bill. All we're saying as a community is look at other options to cut. Stop pitting each other against each other.
Thank you. Jeanette Lassiter.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Mr. Hawker, Dr. Hawker. My name is Jeanette Laster, and I'm the Executive Director of the Human Rights Education Institute and a community partner for the Strengthening Families North Idaho Coalition. Today, I want to touch on the mental wellness of our students and teachers. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every stage of our life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. Mentally healthy students are more likely to go to school ready to learn, actively engage in school activities, have supportive and caring connections with adults and young people, use appropriate problem-solving skills, have non-aggressive behaviors, and add to positive school culture. Continuing to provide mental health services in the school setting helps address barriers to learning and provides supports so that all students can achieve in school and ultimately in life. Mental health issues among teachers are often overlooked, but they also can significantly impact students' learning. Teachers' stress and burnout are common problems that can lead to depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. These problems can affect teachers' ability to do their jobs. So many of our students and teachers are feeling the impacts of the climate from the last 2 years, from the impacts of COVID to the potential of job loss due to cuts in funding, to the rise in school shootings and safety issues across the nation. This school district has felt the loss from suicide both at the teacher and student level. As a result, the powerful peer-to-peer program Sources of Strength has had great success in our school district. 75% of teens believe anxiety and depression are major issues among people of their age. According to the National Center of Educational Statistics, as of June 28, 2022, we have the highest number, the nation has the highest number of school shootings to date reported in 2020 to 2021, while cyberbullying rates doubled in over a decade. 93 school shootings with casualties, 43 with deaths, and 50 with injuries only. And this was from a report on the indicators of school crime and safety in 2021. According to a nationwide CDC survey for secondary students, out of nearly 14,000 students who responded, nearly 18% considered a suicide attempt. Around 15% made a plan to die by suicide. More than 8% made a suicide attempt in the past year. Almost 3% made an attempt that resulted in medical treatment. Suicide attempts often outnumber actual suicides. According to the CDC, for every one youth suicide, there are at least 25 suicide attempts. Most students who made a suicide attempt did not receive any treatment, often because adults had no idea that the suicide attempt even occurred. I'll send you the rest via email. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Richard Blatt. Richard Blatt.
He left. Is that what you said?
He left. Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
I wasn't. Did someone say he left? Is he outside maybe? Nope. Mike Curry, and then next up is Jody Johnson. So Mike Curry.
Can I go last?
I think we'll just continue to follow the order, please. Thank you.
I didn't come here to talk about this. Although, Mike Curry, I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Obviously, all of this is extremely important, and I think, as a resident of Coeur d'Alene since 1984, I think for the most part, everybody here thinks that you're doing a good job, and I support the levies. I think, in general, most people support what the school's doing, but maybe, like the past principal said, maybe a little less headbutting, a little more getting together and figuring out what both sides need, what both sides want. Maybe some solutions, can be achieved. Start with some chairs outside or a bigger facility. You had 60 people outside, now there's 12. something like First Amendment rights, I mean, you know, all those people kind of wanted to speak. They kind of, you know, wanted to be in here. They wanted to hear. They wanted to be involved, and you ran them off because it's cold. There's no chairs. Standing up outside, my 60-year-old back and knees are screaming at me right now. I came here tonight because I'm running for Lakes Highway District Commissioner, Subdistrict 3. I was just going to introduce myself, and then all this is going on. You know, I threw my hat into the ring for this a couple of months ago. Did not even realize that these buses were running side by side here in Kootenai County, and I'm really kind of glad that you know that I'm kind of getting involved and learning more and more about what's actually happening here. I'm kind of embarrassed, you know, that I've spent my life here and know as little as I do about some of the things that are happening. But yeah, you know, I applaud you guys. I know that's difficult. I know it's hard. I've been a resident here since 1984, born in Spokane, and graduated from NIC, land use planner and engineer for the last 20 years. You know, I want to help with Lakes Highway District. That's why I jumped into this ring to, you know, and now I'm being attacked by all different sides of a political party that, you know, is endorsing people that aren't qualified for positions, and some interesting things going on here in Kootenai County. And I'm really, really excited to see everybody here paying attention. It's a blessing. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. And Jody Johnson, please.
So when I was asked to put if I wanted to put my name on the list to speak, I didn't want to really, but I must have been shown the short list because it looked like there were only 3 speakers before me, and none of them did I recognize their name. My name's Jody Johnson, and I'm a first grade teacher at Winton Elementary. And the reason I chose to speak is, even though I don't have anything formally prepared, is because I wanted teachers to have a voice, and I wanted my kids to have a voice. And I was afraid, looking at the short list, that they would not. So I'm mustering up my courage. I'm a little terrified right now. I'm better with little kids than big people. But I did just want to mention what it's like for us right now in an elementary school. I work at a school that has high poverty, and I love my little school. I love my kids so much, and I just, it's right now going into my work every day, it's just so discouraging. When the levy did not pass, we knew what we'd be faced with. And I'm looking at professionals that I teach with, and I watch what they do every day. I've seen them be hit by students. I've seen them make sure when kids come in that their kids get breakfast in the morning. Those things that you just don't think about that would be a school teacher's job, we do. And we do it with our whole heart. And it is so disheartening to know that some of those people that I work with will not have a job next year. And actually, it could be me, you know, and I'm 20 years in the profession. And I just don't know what I would do without this job. It's everything to me. It's more than just a job. It's my calling in life. And these kids are whom I receive inspiration from. They give purpose to me. And, you know, why should we support the levy? It's not just about the teachers and kids that we're supporting now. It's also paying forward what somebody did for us when we were young. We have to give away these selfish ideas about me and mine and what I want. Somebody did it for you. Somebody loved you through school. Somebody supported you when things were hard for you. You've been given so much, and we have the responsibility to give back.
And that's 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you all for coming for public comment, and we're going to continue on with our meeting. Let me get my stuff. Next up is the approval of our consent agenda. And first of all, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
For discussion on this, I do want to point out that one of the independent audit contract, because I know that audits and all that are of extreme importance right now, especially, and so I do just want to point out, especially for our community, that that our independent audit contract is up for renewal and went out for bids, and so there was a lot of discussion, and Trustee Bierke, you were on that, and so I just want to invite you if you want to say anything about that contract, or I know you're not prepared to. Oh, I don't know. Just, I mean, I appreciate you being on that committee that looked at that are.
Well, I was
looked at it.
invited to be on that committee, and the company that we currently have, I don't have their name right in front of me, but I think we've had them about 10 years, so it was time to look for some fresh eyes. So we received 2 bids, and there was 4 of us on the committee, and we went through and we rated them based on certain criteria, and we seemed to be a lot on the same page. And we opted to go with the second bid, which is a brand new audit company. They have a ton of experience with school districts, and we're saving a ton of money by doing that. So that's what that was about.
Great. Thank you. Didn't mean
Sure.
to put you on the
No
spot, but
worries.
I just thought it was important.
No worries.
So all in favor of passing the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, consent agenda passes. Next up is information for us on the monthly financials and student discipline data. Is there any questions on that or any of those additional information pieces? No. All right, terrific. Yeah, there was a number of questions at the end of our board packet. Next up is our policy 3300 for drug-free school zone. This was the second reading of this. We received 3 public comments. Any questions or comments on this policy?
Is that the one with the asthma?
This was the one, I believe, with the
asked a
asthma.
question.
And yeah,
Is that clarified?
I did ask a question regarding, so this will not affect any of our asthma students.
That is correct.
That is correct.
So that's clear.
Yeah, so we
Okay,
we
good.
clarified that.
I believe it was because it was a prescribed medication, right?
Okay, just want to make sure.
That was the
'cause
difference.
That was a good point.
Yep. So we appreciate those public comments. So is there a motion then for this policy?
There's 2 policies, which
Yep.
one?
I'll
This
do
is
the
the
first one here.
first
So
one.
I'll move to approve policy 3300 drug-free school zones as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Policy 3300, which is our drug-free school zone policy, is updated then. Second policy then is policy 3305, which is the prohibition of tobacco, nicotine, possession, and use. This was a second reading, and 2 public comments were received on this. Is there a motion to approve this policy?
I'll motion to approve policy 3305 as presented.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion approves. So next up then, we have a recommendation and I believe probably a presentation on a recommendation for elementary ELA and secondary science material adoption. So.
Good evening, Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, esteemed trustees, and Ms. Southwick. With your permission, I'd like to speak a little bit first to the overall process that we engaged in under the new law that applies to both ELA and science adoptions. And then I can address ELA and science separately. So this was the first time we first did this with Sources of Strength, but this is the first time that we really did an adoption committee process with under the new law, where we had half of the committee be community members, half of our committee be teachers or associated or affiliated with our schools, and we had noticed our meetings and made them very public and invited the public in to observe the process. And so I just wanted to speak to how that went for us. We had some lessons learned. First and foremost, the biggest lesson, I think, and the biggest takeaway from this was that it was a wonderful opportunity for teachers and the community to unite in that forward together kind of movement that I think so many people have been speaking to tonight. So much so that it allowed people to, the entire committee and both groups came to unanimous decisions. Each person was able to express their voice and be heard. They were able to talk through some potentially very difficult topics, and they reached a conclusion that all said they were satisfied with. There were also some lessons learned, some things that I would do differently next time. For example, we learned that some of our committee, our community members applied to be part of this process with the best of intentions, I'm sure, but weren't able to attend as many of the meetings as I'm sure they had intended to. And so in the future, I'd like to, as I'm advertising this committee and letting them know of the dates, just let them know that if they're unable to attend, if they're not able to attend more than 25% of their meetings or some sort of percentage, that we would have, and we had other people who applied and wanted to take their place, that we would then fill that position for them. Another would be, in an ideal world, it would be better to extend the review process, just make it a little lengthier, give people more time to read through and review their resources. Another lesson learned was that we had a parallel committee made up of teachers that did some pre-planning and also some informational work and serving as a liaison back to their school communities so that more schools could be involved and informed. Because, for example, under the law, we had 3 community members who wanted to be part of the science committee. Well, that only allowed us to have 3 educators be part of it, and we have far more people who are interested in the results and outcome than 3 schools. So we had this parallel process that was also kind of happening where they attended the meetings and listened in, and they were able to explore the resources as well and then provide input into the committee. They were not voting members of the committee. They were not actively participating in the committee meetings at all, but they were part of this because our meetings were open. They attended the meetings and were able to listen in and learn. And at the conclusion of both meetings, I asked, after the final meeting, I asked everybody to just kind of informally, on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with our end result? And again, they had come to a unanimous conclusion about the resources. In our science meeting, every single person in the committee gave it a 5, that they were completely satisfied. In our ELA committee meeting, everybody gave it a 4 or 5, some saying that they were wishing that there's no perfect resource out there. There's nothing that's going to be the perfect thing, but that they were pleased with the end result and think that this is a strong recommendation. So that's an overall sort of quick and speedy overview of some of the lessons that we learned as part of the process. Before I move into ELA, are there any questions about the process that I could answer for you?
The academies that you've spoken, what was the purpose of having an additional group when you already had, and I'm sorry if you said the answer, I think I...
No, that's all right.
For a second.
Yeah, so there were two purposes really. The one was to do a little bit of pre-planning because we needed to sort of we were able to increase the efficiency of the committee by looking at some of the current realities of our district, as well as researching some of the information around the science of reading and dyslexia, et cetera, so that we could bring that information forward to the committee and help that be part of the process. The second reason was because, again, even with the ELA committee, we had 7 teachers and 7 community members be part of the process, but we have 11 plus our CDVA, we have 11 plus schools who have interest in what we're doing, and they wanted to be able to understand and listen to the vendor presentations as well and hear those kinds of things and be able to bring the information back to their schools, and then have the schools give them information that they could then bring back to the committee. So by allowing them to be part of listening in on those conversations, hearing those vendor presentations, gathering information from their schools, and then bringing it back to the group, they were not participating in the committee meetings, they were just listening in, but they provided information to the teachers who were part of those meetings.
Okay, so they didn't participate in the rating process. The academy?
Correct. They did not
just
participate.
Disseminated all the information from those meetings to their staffs, and was it mostly disseminated by other teachers, or was building principals or admin involved in that?
It was mostly disseminated by the teachers who were attending the meetings. We did have early on a couple of administrators who chose to attend, but it was largely the teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions about the process before I move into ELA? Okay. So for ELA, the committee looked at several different resources as part of their process. For example, they looked at Savvis, which used to be Pearson. They looked at Houghton Mifflin. They looked at Harton, HMH. So they looked at a number of different resources, about 8 in total, including Hillsdale College as one of them. And they listened to presentations from each curriculum resource. And they evaluated the merits of each as best they could. And what they arrived at, which they feel pretty excited about, is called Benchmark Advanced for 2022, copyright 2022. Benchmark Advanced is a resource that they feel strongly about for several reasons. One being that they feel that it has a strong integrated approach to literacy, where it weaves in social studies and science. They are excited about its flexibility and ease of use. They feel that it addresses components of learning very well. They feel that it helps to create critical thinkers. They felt it was comprehensive, that it would support accommodation and differentiation, that it provided a variety of engaging texts, and that it also aligned with the science of reading, which is part of what our new legislation also calls for, is to make sure that it's in alignment with the science of reading. So with this, the board's approval, they would like to put Benchmark Advanced out for a 30-day review in order to, at the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Hayden Public Library, so that our public can be better informed about it. And then at the end of that time, we can bring that information back before this board, along with any questions or concerns that may arise in the meantime, in order for the board to make a decision about that curriculum resource.
Katie, could you speak a little bit more about the whole library piece, because that is new in curriculum review, and maybe why we're doing it this way, and can you speak a little bit more to that?
Absolutely. In the past, the way that we've done the public review piece is we've held the resources at the district office, and we've had the public come in and look at the resources there. What we've found is that when we have a number of folks who are very interested in looking and examining the resources, our district office just isn't a very comfortable facility for that. They have to sit. We've had lots of people sitting in the lobby and trying to balance books on their knees, and it just wasn't very user-friendly. In addition, we're only available during our hours of operation, and I offered for anybody who wanted to view them outside of those hours that I would make it available to them and be there with them. But it's just not a very conducive space for that. So by making it available at our public libraries, we can make it available to our public after hours. We can make it available on the weekends, and it can provide a more conducive space for people to be able to actually sit down with the materials at tables and read.
And can you, we can't put curricular materials, these curricular materials, online for review, correct? And can you explain?
We cannot put just blast out the materials and make them available. However, with Benchmark, we have been provided with a code that if folks go to the library, they can scan the code and they'll be able to see the digital materials by using that.
But still, they could see that. They need to go to the library to access that.
Yes, I don't know that we don't have permission to put the code out on the internet.
Okay, thank you.
Katie, in the, I guess it's the voting in the rubric, there's kind of consistently some abstentions.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 people, it's 3 most of the time, and I'm just curious, is it the same people? What was the reason? Were they community members? Were they staff? Were they a mixture of both?
They tended to be mostly our community members. While they voted in the end overall for the resource and the motion to adopt the resource, they were part of that vote, and they did not abstain for that vote. In the actual rubric, many of them chose to abstain because they felt like they didn't have as much knowledge to be able to participate in that piece of the vote.
So when judging the educational quality of it, and does it meet the standard and those sorts of things, or
exactly
those sorts of things, they didn't feel qualified, some of them?
Yes, okay. Some of them felt less qualified to speak to that.
I'm curious how Benchmark came to be a suggestion, because I looked through a question that Ms. Smith asked about where it was being used, and it's not being used in Idaho with the exception of an older version at Post Falls and, around the country. But how did your group come to look at Benchmark?
And one in Orofino. It's being used in Orofino too. It was a suggestion made by one of the members of the committee who was interested in looking at it, and she made it during the committee meeting, and the committee supported looking into it along with a couple other resources. I think Wit and Wisdom was during that meeting, and Hillsdale Curriculum was also during that meeting.
I've gone through all of them with the exception of Benchmark, which thank you for sharing, and I will do that for the next week or so. I did do a little digging online and was not super thrilled with some of the ideologies that are included in this, and I didn't have to dig far. I just went to their homepage, and so that's causing me some struggle right now.
I will say that there was a mention of Black Lives Matters in one of the texts, and that was brought up in Florida. It was immediately removed in both the digital and print versions and replaced with information about a protest in 1963.
Well, I'm very concerned that the lens with cultural responsive teaching, equity, and social emotional learning is going to be infused throughout this. That's on their homepage. Again, I wasn't digging, just was easy to find. So that is a concern of mine, and I did notice that in lots of other series that were brought forth, and I think that we really need to be diligent about finding series that aren't lending itself to these kind of ideologies, because our community does not want to see that. And personally, I don't want to see that either.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Bierke. Our committee members were in support of this text. Our community members were in support of this text or this resource.
I had one more question.
Yes.
Would you be able to, you don't have to now, share with me the cost of this program at some point?
Absolutely. Before it gets adopted, I absolutely will be sharing the cost of this program.
Could you also really quickly maybe just speak to, and I've seen it in maybe some comments that have come up over the past couple weeks, why do we need to, just remind us, why do we need to purchase a curriculum now? Why is that part of what we need to spend money on right now? We have been operating without a reading resource now for many years. We've had writing units of study by Lucy Calkins. We've had phonics units of study by Lucy Calkins, which has since been shown not to be as supportive of foundational reading skills as we would expect a program to be for our kids, which is why we've been looking at Orton Gillingham and IMSC so heavily, because it really does speak to those pieces that we're missing. In terms of reading, we've had libraries that kids could access in our classrooms, but we didn't really have a reading resource per se that would support every teacher in being able to teach reading to every student. And so that, along with the new information about, or not the new information, but the new legislation around the science of reading in Idaho, has encouraged us to look for a resource that will help all our kids be successful in English language arts. Thank you.
Just two quick questions, I think. Oftentimes in the past when we've done these, we've had kind of multiple resources we've looked at together, right? Even through the public comment period, and then we've kind of regrouped after that. At least I feel like we've done that some. You're looking at me.
Not
like I'm
since
crazy,
I've
so
been
maybe
here.
We haven't, but what was the kind of number 2 resource, or what did it get down to?
The number 2 resource was My View by Savis. And ultimately, the comments on that were that it wasn't as user friendly. The foundational skills were a little bit worrisome. They didn't find that it was rigorous enough for older grades. It was very workbook heavy with a lot of worksheets and not trade books. it felt anyway. There were some important considerations that they felt like my view didn't have. The third runner-up was Houghton Mifflin Hardcore. They decided to table that unless it was something that they felt like they needed to go to in case one of their top two weren't sufficient.
All these questions. So curriculum adoptions are a big thing. They cost a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I agree, no textbook series is perfect.
Mhm.
But I feel like it's incumbent on us, especially in light of all the cuts we're trying to make and or potentially may have to make, that this isn't something we should probably even be discussing now. But what I would like to see is maybe go back to the drawing board and include some more choices. Like I mentioned, I have not been impressed, and I've spent the bulk of my career teaching reading, so I feel like I have some good experience in that, and I know what works and what doesn't work. I am not impressed with any of these. I have not looked at benchmark. I will do that, although what I saw on the website leads me to not want to support that. But why, especially in the midst of all the levy talk and waiting to see what's going to happen next month, could we not perhaps look for some alternative sources and really take our time and get the best that we can? Again, realizing that it's not there's no perfect source. You always have to supplement, but find one that's better.
If that's the will of the board, Trustee Berkey, we could definitely do that. I will say that we looked at Wit and Wisdom, we looked at My View, we looked at Into Reading from Houghton Mifflin, we looked at Hillsdale College, we looked at EL. So I think we looked at about at least. We looked at several, and we would, if we go back to the drawing board, we absolutely could. It's going to mean that we would push out a potential adoption yet another year, which would result in us not having a resource, a strong reading resource for yet another year. It would mean that we would need to try to find something beyond what our committee has already, really dug into and examined, to try to find something that would meet what you are hoping for. But it is completely within the board's purview to do so. I would also mention that we have a number of people who have invested quite a lot of time. We would probably need to start from scratch, as you said, and either invite these committee members back or start over. So I guess I would need help knowing about what your timeline would be. What we are hoping for is that the board, what the committee is hoping for is that the board would be willing to put this out and then make a decision in May, but our district wouldn't adopt it unless there was the passage of the levy, because we wouldn't have the funding for moving forward. But that, again, we serve at the pleasure of the board, and we will do our best to enact what the board wishes.
Katie, can you give me, so there were curricular committee meetings.
Mm-hmm.
There were 4, I believe.
There were 4. There was a 5th that we scheduled that we had to void and do over again because it hadn't been properly noticed. But yes, there were 4.
And can you give
official.
me an estimate how many hours of committee meetings did that turn out to be?
The committee meetings themselves tended to be between 1 and 2 hours, but the vendor presentations, when you factor those in, each one was at least an hour.
That was a separate.
That was above and beyond.
Okay,
those
so was
meetings.
that not was that done in person as a group, or was that like?
It was done in person.
Okay.
We allowed, if a committee member couldn't be present for it, that was acceptable because we invited them. We hoped that they would attend, but you have to have a quorum for each meeting. We didn't require it. It wasn't a
Vendor presentations were not official meetings.
right. Exactly.
Because you were just listening to the vendor, not
Right, and
decision
not
making.
Yeah, and we wanted the public to attend. We invited our committee members to attend, but we knew that it would be difficult to get a quorum should we require that full amount of time for everybody.
And what was the committee access to the materials? Like, walk me through how committee members were able to access and review and spend time with materials?
We for the most part, we had access to the physical and digital materials. We created a tracker that enabled our members to be able to look at everything digitally. There was a different amount of support physically from each vendor. Some vendors were able to send us a lot of materials that we could review. Some vendors were able to send us very little physically to review, but it was available digitally. All the material was available digitally for our members to review.
And I mean, did you get was it brought up a frustration at not feeling like they had enough access, or were people generally felt like they had the access they needed to make decisions?
There wasn't any kind of expressed frustration in terms of not being able to have any kind of digital access. I think people would have enjoyed more physical access to some of the materials, but in terms of being able to access the materials digitally, that seemed to be sufficient.
Okay. And then can you also walk me through, so you I believe came with some previously scheduled vendor presentations, and then some other things were added, including apparently benchmark through the committee process.
Well, the teachers during their committee meeting, during the first committee meeting, they came with some recommendations that they wanted to look at, but then through this process, committee members added in additional resources that they wanted to look at.
What did it look like when a committee member wanted to look at an additional resource? Like, did they just say, I'd like to look at this, and that was...
It was part of the agenda, so we would say resources to explore possible action. And so it was, are there any resources now that any committee members would like to explore? And then somebody would say, well, I'm interested in this, exploring this resource for these reasons. And the committee generally said, okay, we would like to support that if you're finding that that's something that is worth reviewing.
So that's kind of my next question. Was there anything suggested that the committee decided not to review, or was it?
The only resource that they weren't very interested in reviewing after it was originally brought up was called ReadyGen, and that was another product by Savvis, and it was an earlier product, and they felt that it was, because it was being discontinued by the company, it wasn't worth investing much time into, and they'd rather look at the MyView product that is more recent instead. But that was the only one that the committee didn't want to really invest much time into.
Okay. Thank you.
Katie, in the review document, it brings up a couple of the concerns the committee had with the text, whether it was the Black Lives Matter or maybe creating a protest and those sorts of things. Is that something that's in the teacher book, or is that in the student resource, and is that something that people are going to be able to see when they go to the library?
It hadn't been, so it was taken out of the print resource and it was taken out of the digital resource. So it won't be in either in teacher or student resource, the Black Lives Matter content.
But it was in the past then, is that?
It was originally part of this product when it was published. There were some schools that took umbrage to it, and it has since been removed.
And so what the committee is asking us to do is just accept their recommendation to put it out for public comment. Is that correct?
Correct.
You know, to me, I think you honor the committee's work and that we do that. I do have concerns along Ms. Bierke's, and not because they're concerns, but I think oftentimes over the last few years we've been guilty by association on lots of different things. And it's someone somewhere sometimes said something, and because they did, and they're in one of our texts, or we used them as a resource, now we've said what they said somewhere, sometime, somehow. And I just think in today's political climate, we need to be super careful with that stuff. And the last thing we need is more controversy. And so I think where we can avoid it, I think it's our duty to try to do so. So I'd be interested in putting it out for comment and seeing what the comment is. I'm guessing if Ms. Bierke could look and easily find things, we'll get plenty of comment. And people will share that with us, and we'll have a month ourselves to do that. But I would tend to agree if there's a lot of controversy there, I'm going to have a hard time with that as well. And I'm assuming we all are. But willing to honor the committee's work, and let's see what happens over the next 30 days. That's my take, I guess, at this point.
Any other? Trustee Anderton?
I guess I just have a concern that approximately 8 hours time to review in meetings and choose from 6-ish sources, narrowing it down to only a few and then ultimately recommending one is just not really enough time to be able to dive into those resources enough to make truly informed decisions on that recommendation. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, that is the time that they spent together in community, but there were multiple hours each individual put into investigating these resources on their own or in schools, trying out lessons, seeing how things went. So it's more than the 8 hours of the meeting time. And the other notice, or the other thing that was said about this resource in particular, is that it gets sent home about every 3 weeks instead of like at the end of the year. Sometimes you'll have a consumable that's sent home and you get the whole math book that's sent home. What the committee appreciated about that, some of our community members spoke to, is that they felt like that was a way for parents to be able to be involved and see what their kids were actually reading, and being able to see that in much more real time with what was happening in the classroom.
Thank you.
Sorry. I think I've spoken to you about this. In the district I came from, before we fully delved into the purchase, we would pilot a program for an entire year. Mm-hmm. A teacher at each grade level was able to pilot that. They sent letters out to parents. Parents were on board, knowing fully what they were going to do. And that really gave them an opportunity in that time to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. A lesson here, a lesson there, in my opinion, does not do that. So while I'm not inclined to support this resource, I would prefer to have more choice. Choice is always good. I guess I could support the community looking at it, but I'm not inclined to support this one.
Okay, so, but did I hear you say you're inclined to at least put it out, or where are we at?
But I just wanted to be noted that I am not inclined to supporting this. But I always think the community should have an opportunity to look at things.
Okay.
I'm just curious to know, if we do put this out to the community to review and give us feedback on, is it a possibility that we could look at piloting this program first before purchasing all of the curriculum?
That's a great idea.
If I'm not sure who that question's directed to,
whoever can answer it.
I think anything, again, anything that the board is desirous of is a possibility. The reason that we didn't look at a pilot with a particular teacher doing it for an entire year was because it was expressed that we wanted to have some kind of resource for all students in place for next year, and that would have not allowed us to meet that commitment or that idea.
Even within one teacher piloting that, they could share some lessons with their teammates. I mean, they wouldn't have the whole access to the program, but they could say, hey, I taught this really cool lesson. I think it's great. Let's see what you guys think about it.
Sure.
That's collaboration. And again, it gives us an opportunity to see if this is truly a good fit for our district.
Absolutely. It just
saddled with something we end up going after a few months going, oh, yeah, this is not so great.
It just wouldn't be at all 11 of our schools.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we at? Is there a motion or not to at least let's focus just on the ELA part, and then we'll have you talk about science. So
there's a motion, in here, and I'll make it. So I'd move to advance the recommended elementary ELA material to the public review period.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll put that out, and that'll be at both libraries then for review, and we can continue to dig deeper into ELA.
They're not. They should be ready and available by the end of the week. They won't be there tomorrow, but since not knowing what would be the will of the board, we didn't have it quite ready yet, but we will have it by the end of the week. The secondary science materials adoption. So we entered into a similar process to the ELA. Again, there were some great discussions had with our committee members and our community members. And they were able to really look at some great resources and are excited by their recommendations. For 6th through 8th grade science, one of the things that we did before we entered into our adoption process was that we looked at the scope and sequence and essential standards. You may or may not know that for 6th and 8th grade science, the standards are kind of lumped together, somewhat like our high school math are. And so you have a choice about whether you can do more of an integrated approach or more of a content-specific approach at each grade level. And the overwhelming decision was to go with a little bit more of an integrated approach with an emphasis in life sciences at the 7th grade level, and then earth and physical sciences at the 6th and 8th grade levels. So with that being said, they looked at different resources and were excited by this opportunity by Savvis, which allows us to use modules rather than an entire text. And what is sort of nice about this approach is that it allows us to be more specific to what the students are actually learning in each classroom. I don't know if you remember the days when you would have a whole textbook and you'd only look at maybe 25% of it. But here, these modules will be pretty specific to what the kids are actually learning in those grade levels. So that is 6th through 8th grade science.
Katie, are those physical modules? Like it's the little books?
Yeah, they're little books, and what the teachers are requesting are class sets rather than one-to-one, because the kids can have digital access if they need it. They could send it home with a student if a student needs it, or if they have an IEP or a 504 plan that requires a physical copy. But for the most part, kids can use the physical resource in class or the digital version at home. And so these would be broken out depending on how our students, what our topics are. Then for physical science, they were impressed by McGraw-Hill, Inspire Physical Science. For biology, they wanted to choose Inspire Science Biology by McGraw-Hill. For chemistry, they decided on Inspire Science Chemistry by McGraw-Hill. And to round it out, for physics, they also liked Inspire Science by McGraw-Hill. So those were the wishes of the committee. The committee is asking that we would put these forward and out for review. But the committee is also asking that we consider on the district side that we make sure that we protect a line item that's part of the curriculum budget if we have curriculum budget funding that would enable us to do science experiments, because that's the real work of science, and kids want to get their hands dirty and really dig in.
Katie, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but I remember the last time we adopted science, at least at the high school level. I think it was about the time I came on the board, or right before I came on the board. Does that sound about right?
Maybe. You were on the board before I came along, so I'm not.
Dr. Nelson, right? Is that when we had the space down at Riverstone, and we had all the resources down there available for people to look at?
Trustee Morserow, I'm pretty sure that year is 2016.
Okay, so that was my first year. And that was a digital resource, I believe we adopted for the most part.
CK12, yes.
Yes, okay.
It's a digital resource.
And that wasn't that long ago, so why are we looking to replace that particular resource?
2016 was about 7 years
Okay,
ago.
so it's in our cycle.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll get us the cost on this as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I do appreciate a hard copy. I think as a parent, I find the digital extremely frustrating when I'm trying to help my kids. So I think that is an important piece, even if it's just available for checkout or something like that. But the kids like it, right? Because they're not lugging around those big, heavy backpacks. But it's very hard to help, I think, out of a digital resource, just because I'm old.
We're definitely finding this as a hybrid world, right? We want to be able to be digital and have digital access. It's convenient and easy, but we also, there's something to be said for physical, and it's very helpful.
I can move to send the secondary science materials to the public review period, advance the recommended materials to the public review period.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Katie, thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much. Really, it's a lot of work. Appreciate it. All right. Do we need to pause before? Are we good? Keep going? All right.
Power through.
We're going. Here we go. Well, just asking sometimes, All right. Shannon, budget update and questions and all the things. Thanks.
Alrighty, good evening, Chair Smith and trustees. Tonight I am going to give kind of a first look at some more solid state revenue projections for next year now that education bills have been signed. Still draft form, haven't gone through the legislative roadshow, and the state has just started dissecting this information. So remember, these are just estimates and best guesses at this time. But first, I want to go through kind of a quick review of what our budget and finance cycle looks like in a given year and kind of what we can expect for these next upcoming months. So March and April, we do a lot of work during this time to start developing the budget. We have staffing and enrollment meetings for next year, kind of taking a look at enrollment projections, current staffing levels. We also do budget development with department and building budgets. It's looked a little different this year because we're in limbo and we've got so many unknowns at this point. And we monitor the JFAC and education budget throughout this time. Now that we got our education bills kind of signed in and we have a set date for legislation roadshow, they will be the public finance and superintendent of instruction will be here next Friday on 4/21 to do a legislative roadshow. They have posted their slides online at the Idaho Department of Education's website. So if you want to take a first look, they're on there. And they're going to, I think, televise one of the meetings, but it's not going to be available for the next couple weeks because they have to edit it and stuff. So I do recommend, if you're interested, going to that legislative roadshow. Then we have our budget subcommittees set. And this is where we've got 2 board member representatives. We've got CEA and admin staff on this budget subcommittee. And we're going to take a look. The first budget subcommittee, we're really going to take a look and compare a budget with a levy and a budget without a levy. It's going to look a little different this year. And then we dive into our state revenues, support units, and then look into expenditures for next year. During April and May, we're getting closer to year end. So in May, you're going to get estimated actuals for this current year presented to you. And we have most of our payroll in. We have our payroll accruals from July and August. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be 100%, but it's 85% of our budget is the salaries and benefits. So we'll have a good idea where we're going to end the year. And then our interim audit work begins. We have our audit contract approved earlier tonight. So excited to begin that work. And it's interim means the books aren't closed yet, but they're going to do a lot of the expenditure testing, state compliance testing, really a lot of sampling. So, all right, and then June will be a busy month for us. We are going to have our public hearing on the budget, so I'll present on the budget, the general fund, and all other funds, and then we'll have opportunity for public comment. And then in a subsequent meeting, the budget will the board will either adopt the budget or not. So, and then July and September, those are some really busy months for us. Just because it's summer, it's still going to be really busy. We are closing our books. We are also working with our auditors to finish up the audit. And then in September, after the start of the school year, we'll host our first budget subcommittee meeting for the new year. And then in October, the board will have the independent audit report for FY23 presented to them. And then kind of throughout the year, just also we're always doing monthly financials to the board, prepping for that. We submit quarterly and annual reports to the State Department of Education and try to have bi-monthly budget subcommittees. We've tried to expand that this year. And then next year, I'll talk a little later on to kind of the opportunities that we have to expand the budget subcommittee further with more community members. All right, so I kind of wanted to highlight some checks and balances that we have over our financials in the budget. A lot of this is background work. It's not necessarily, if you're not in accounting and you're not in the finance department, you might not know this stuff is going on, but it keeps us pretty busy. First, of course, the one you're aware of is our annual independent audit. They're testing our internal controls, making sure we have proper approvals over expenditures in place, cash controls in place. They are testing that we're meeting state compliance requirements, federal compliance requirements, and making sure what we're saying our finances are accurate. Then there is the oversight that the State Department of Education does, and it's extensive. We're not just one autonomous LEA doing whatever we want. We've got a lot of controls and a lot of reporting we have to do with the State Department of Education. One being, of course, we upload the annual finance report. If you've taken a look at our budget streams and our budget code, it's a huge thousands of lines of budget. So they collect all that data and make sure you are reporting everything properly and that all the transactions are reported correctly. Then there's monthly IC data submissions. So these are monthly data uploads. We upload all our staff, their salaries, attendance data, and the state collects that, and they actually compare districts. And they upload that data onto their, the Idaho State Department Public Finance webpage has tons of comparative data. So I recommend you, if you're interested in comparing our district with other districts, there's a lot of data there for you to sift through. And some people might not know that, but there's tons of data and good stuff on that website. And then for every federal program that we have and every expenditure that we do, we have to report that to the state before we get to draw down those funds. So they're reviewing to make sure that all of those expenditures are allowable. There's also federal program monitoring, which are more extensive audits, and not every program is audited each year, but they take cycle turns. So they'll audit Title I one year, they'll do special education auditing. So that's another kind of checks and balances that we have. And we also have to submit annual spending reports to the state for a lot of our other state categorical revenues. So transportation expenditures, literacy, remediation, CTE, our school building maintenance expenditures, keeps us pretty busy with all the reports we have to submit. And then there's something kind of new and exciting, and I think the state listened to kind of the community and wanting more transparency. They are doing quarterly finance transparency reports now. It's this year is kind of, it's optional and kind of still sifting through like errors with the uploads, but next year it's in full effect. And what we do is we upload our entire general ledger to the state, and then they will have that for transparency tools. They'll probably have more user-friendly tools where they dissect that information and just make charts and stuff, but that's a really good opportunity for the public to be reviewing any school district's expenditures. And then, like I said, tons of annual comparative reports on the State Department's website, and some comparative data that we'll take a look at during our budget subcommittee. So stuff that we might not necessarily always talk about, but it's happening in the background. And I think it's good to bring transparency awareness to what's going on in the finance department.
You know Shannon's in finance because she had a smile on her face that whole time, right? Everyone else is like glossing over, but
yeah, and it's 7:30.
smile.
You guys are troopers. So
what about Shannon? Real quick, isn't there a new another report they're going to add around levy funds?
So I haven't seen like template formats, but in code, we are going to be required to, what we say that we're going to spend on the ballot, we're going to need to present estimated like actuals for that. It's going to have to be in June, so books won't be closed, but it'll be pretty on the spot. And if anything changes, we can always issue an updated one when we present the year-end actuals.
So at the end of the budget year, you have to present, okay,
Yeah.
this is how we said we're going to spend the money, and this is how we spend
Yep.
the money. Thank you.
So at the last board meeting, and kind of discussion that we've had is that kind of a budget analysis. Is there outside parties that maybe could do a budget analysis, or is there maybe an audit firm that can do a spending efficiency audit? I searched far and wide. I talked to the head, the CFO of public finance for the state. She's not aware of a company that does that. I've talked to our actual auditors, not aware of a company. And then I reached out to my fellow finance directors and CFOs of IASBO. So the Idaho Association of School Business Officers. It's not really anything people have heard doing or know of a firm. There have been staffing studies that I know of some firms, but not really a spending efficiency audit. But then I was directed from Lisa Halls, she's the retiring CFO for Lake Pend Oreille, and she said, give the Government Finance Officers Association a call. And so they are a huge nationwide association that gives best practices for really finance officers of governmental agencies. A lot of our board policies align with their best practices. They have a lot of resources and tools online, and they're not a nonprofit, so they're not looking to, charge a lot. They have a very specific Smarter School Spending program, and it's led by a former CFO, 25 plus years. She had a mid-size Florida school district of 40,000. She said that was mid-size. I said, wow, that's a large school district. So actually, Dr. Hawker and Chair Smith, we all had the opportunity to meet with her and kind of show her we need tools and we need a plan. How do we get our budget information out to our community? How do we do a spending analysis? How do we align our budget to our main priorities? And then this is where the Smarter School program came into play. It's kind of a 5-step series of best budgeting practices. It does take about 9 to 18 months for a district to kind of complete. But the nice thing about it, it's led by the superintendent, finance, instructional leaders, the board, and the community. So it's kind of the work that we would do. There'd be a planning stage, setting instructional priorities, AKA the strategic plan, which is a great way, like we're doing the strategic plan right now. And then the third step is called paying for priorities. So this would be the deep analysis of the budget and looking at our priorities, all the costs, going through staffing, departments, buildings, and aligning the budget to our strategic plan, and then looking at those costs and those priorities and what are our priorities and what are costs that maybe we need to repurpose it so we can repurpose them to our most needed priorities. And then after that, there would be a 3 to 5 year budget document, a finance strategic plan that kind of aligns to the instructional strategic plan. It's a lot of work. It's not a week of a outside firm coming in, but it's work that the school district can do. It's work that wouldn't cost us anything to do this work. The only cost would be for the project managers to come in maybe throughout once or twice, a couple times throughout the timeline to make sure we're on the right direction. I think they said maybe around $2,000 per day. But if the board could do this work with the district and the community, and we could have this, the Government Finance Officers Association leading us, I think it sounds like an amazing opportunity. We do need to learn a lot more and have more information. In May next month, I'm going to an all-day workshop to really kind of what we need to know to start planning and figuring out, is this the best option for our district? But it was something promising when I couldn't find anything else. So it's exciting. And
they invited you for free and waived your fee too, right?
They did, yeah. So, and I've got a credit for the airline, so already saving money.
Perfect.
And I know it's just a little overview right now, but there's so many resources on the website. It's going to be fun for us to look at and see if this is right for our district.
I will share that because I sat in on that presentation and was able to just ask that question especially. And I appreciate Shannon hearing, from the community and taking that piece and really kind of digging in. And it was eye-opening for me that maybe that granular that maybe we're asking for and that the community was asking for, that's almost like a 2-year process that would, in order to do that, because there's so many differences between, comparing school districts and how those things look. So that's almost beyond, but then this work would allow us to do that work in the meantime, really, and along the way. So it was a really interesting presentation and helpful and seemed right in line with the strategic work that we're about to embark on. So.
All right, so we'll get into the legislative session and education bills for next year. So let's dive into kind of one of the biggest impacts for next year will be average daily attendance, reverting back from enrollment-based funding, which was a temporary rule by the State Board of Education. Average daily attendance was always in code. So we are going back to average daily attendance unless we hear from the State Board of Education that there is another extension, but I haven't heard anything in my community and Dr. Hawker hasn't heard anything. So it's going to be average daily attendance. So our current absence rates for this year, elementary is at 5.6% and secondary is a little higher at 7.2%. Here is kind of showing you enrollment-based funding versus attendance-based funding, how many students we have, and then the support units those students would generate. So a pretty significant decrease going from enrollment to attendance. And that is going to be a key variable in all our funding formulas. All right, I think the headline for this legislative session was that $6,000 increase for teachers. So it's really hard to, this funding formula is not simple, but when you hear in the articles and throughout the press that teachers are getting $6,000, we're going to have to communicate that that's not really the case for funding. The state has increased the career ladder by $6,000. So the career ladder is the state salary schedule, but it's not our salary schedule. We have higher salaries. In some parts, our beginning salaries are the same as career ladder right now. So this $6,000 increase, what it does is it increases the average salary that the state pays us for a teacher allowance that they give us. So to kind of explain it, based off of our support units, the state said we're going to pay for 485 teachers. And because they've increased the career ladder starting salary, this means just for the district that our average teacher salary that they're paying us for has increased. But we know from our salary schedule, we have many more teachers that are making more than the average salary. So with a comparison of this current year and next year, we would get an increase in teacher funding about $1.5 million. And what we've presented at the last board meeting is that to give all teachers, not just the general fund, but other funds that aren't funded by the state revenue, it'd be $4.7 million to the district. I wanted to show you a comparison, just kind of to show you the impact of ADA versus enrollment-based funding. If they continued enrollment-based funding, we would have gotten a little more than $3 million instead of that 1.5. I took this straight from the roadshow slides because it's really important, and the State Department is going to try to communicate the amount that the legislation is giving schools. It's not 6,000 times how many teachers you have. They want to really make the message that the board's going to have to choose to divide that $1.5 million into a raise. If you just are going to use the state revenue to give a raise next year and nothing else from the potential levy. But that $1.5 million, it has to go to raises. And we are going to have to report that $1.5 million and how many FTE it went for, what kind of raise you gave. Okay, so after the teachers were still on salary-based funding, they gave the same $6,000 increase to the career ladder to pupil services. So pupil services are like our counselors, our nurses, psychs, SLPs. So that is $116,000. With enrollment, it would be $255,000. Classified, they listened to districts. They identified the need to really make an investment for classified salaries. So they increased the base salary funding from $25,000 to $39,000. Significant impact, a very welcomed increase that we're really going to be able to do a lot with. So you'll see with our ADA-based funding, we're going to get a little more than $2 million, hopefully, for classified funding. If we were enrollment-based funding, it'd be $2.7 million. And throughout kind of our talks of what we've wanted to do with the classified salary schedule, increasing starting pay to 15, that was about a $2.3 million cost. And the state really listened and has identified that the majority of the state revenue could help us do that. Okay, and last but not least, we didn't think that administrator salary-based funding would get a raise. It wasn't in JFAC, but it was kind of a last-minute update, and the state decided to increase the base by 4%. So our funded salary for admin would be going up by almost $3,000. Unfortunately, from going from an enrollment to attendance-based funding, we're not getting an increase in revenue. We're seeing a loss in revenue for next year. With enrollment-based funding, we would have gotten a little bit of increase, but this is kind of our reality as we head back into ADA funding. So discretionary funding, there's two parts to discretionary. In discretionary, it's a per amount times our support units. They've increased both portions, just our regular discretionary and discretionary for health insurance. So that is going to be a $1.5 million increase. And it would have been 2.8 with enrollment-based funding. Okay, another big headliner was HB 292. It's additional investment for school districts to provide property tax relief by more funding going for us to, so we wouldn't have to levy as much for bonds. And if you don't have bonds, it would be used for supplemental levies, and then there's a hierarchy, but we do have bonds. Right now, there's still some, I'm not ready to give an estimate of what we would receive. The state is still working on how that's going to be allocated. But currently, over the next, we have bonds on the book for 8 more years, so paying off principals and interest. It's about $4 million each year for the next 8 years. And kind of about 15, the tax rate is 15 cents per thousand. So if we were to get additional we will get additional funding. We'll be able to lower the amount that we have to levy to pay off that principal and interest and lower that tax rate for bonds.
Shannon, I had a call on this one today, a question, I guess.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is they're going to allocate out that $100 million to the districts based on your percentage of your student population.
Yeah, I think it'll be midterm ADA.
Okay. And so we'll receive a portion of that money.
Mhm.
And just for example, I'm going to say it's $2 million. So if it's $2 million, we're still going to be obligated to make those $4 million in bond payments.
Yep.
And currently the way we do that is on the property tax bill, we levy $4 million. Yep. It's the one that says CDA schools bonds. We collect that money and we pay our bonds. But with this money, if it's $2 million, we would only levy $2 million to the taxpayer, and the state is paying $2 million. So we're still paying our $4 million, just
yeah,
it's
the state will allocate
now,
us, and we do a wire to the U.S. Bank to pay for it. Yeah.
And that new money there, because I think that's the person I talked to, there was some confusion about that. that doesn't go into general fund. That's separate money only used to pay bonds. If you don't have bonds, it pays levies. If you don't have bonds or levies, I think it
It's
pays
for
maintenance,
maintenance,
right?
yeah.
Or construction.
Yep, and we have two separate bond funds, so those funds are not intertwined with the general fund at all.
Thank you.
Great news for property tax relief. It does get, the bill did eliminate our very critical March date for school district levies. So what this means in the future, the board is going to have to decide, do we go out in November or May? So those are kind of going to be critical decisions. We'll see what other school districts do, but that's going to be a pretty big impact for our school district. All right, and there was some other chunks of state revenues. Classroom Tech, they've decided to restore funding levels, pre-pandemic funding levels. So that means maybe about $275,000 more for CDA. Not really what we were hoping for. However, it's a start, and if they continue to identify the increases in technology that we need, we're dealing with inflation. Most students are one-to-one now. Technology infrastructure is incredibly expensive, but incredibly important. Hopefully the state will continue to increase that and not hold it flat. They did listen to kind of calls for funding for that mandated dyslexia professional development, not what we were hoping for. We're actually going to get about $42,000 for this current year. So they passed a bill for the FY23 and about $88,000 for next year. They've also restored a curriculum section for digital content. It's a $1.6 million overall allocation to the entire state. So we don't know what our share will be yet, but just little amounts here and there that are welcomed.
Dr. Hawker, on the dyslexia portion, isn't there a new training that every certificated staff member needs to have?
There is, and Katie can probably specifically address this, but
I was more interested, so it's every certificated staff, even yourself,
that
in
is
district office.
That is right.
What is the cost to do that?
Katie, you want to adjust that or touch on that? I think our current training is a couple $1,000s a person.
So right now for Orton Gillingham IMSC, which is what we've been asking our folks to get trained on because it tends to be the gold standard for dyslexia training, it's about $1,200-ish if we get a discount per person. That's because we've kind of done it in bulk, but that tends to be what we've seen.
Once you're trained, is it a one-time expense?
It is now, according to the guidance, the most recent guidance. It's been a little bit of a moving target because the legislation happened before the State Department maybe had everything in place to deal with all of the moving pieces. But the most recent guidance issued, I believe March 30th, is that once you have done it once, you are done.
And when do we have to have everyone trained by?
So there are two components to the PD legislation. The first says that everyone K-5 has to have training on the characteristics of dyslexia instruction and interventions. And that piece has to happen before the beginning of our next school year, before 2023-2024. In order to create some savings, what we did was we had one of our instructional coaches really invest heavily and learn deeply around dyslexia, and she created a module that we're going to put forth in these last couple of months that will be delivered by coaches or other reading specialists to get all of our K-5 folks trained. For 6-12, we're going to do a similar process. It just doesn't have to include, but maybe should include elements around instruction and intervention. So that's part one, which we're trying to accomplish in-house. Part two is the recertification process, which technically each individual could be responsible for doing on their own as part of their
as part of their recertification. However, it's been such a critical component of our curriculum and our foundational literacy that the district has found it valuable to invest in making sure all of our teachers are getting trained in that K-5. Who work with kids in an instructional capacity in literacy. And so that has been something that we have invested in. We've put it on a freeze for right now till we know more results of our levy. But that is something we would hope to be able to continue to do and have been doing. Last summer we had 3 different trainings in dyslexia over the summer, and we have also been individually subbing teachers out to be able to get this training as it fit their schedule, or if they were willing to do it on the weekends or after school, we've been providing a stipend.
And that's at $1,200 training?
The $1,200 training, and then you have to factor in the cost of subs and or stipends if they've been doing it on their own time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so here is a summary of everything that we just discussed in terms of what we can estimate for state revenues and kind of do a first projection. We are looking at, I didn't review the benefit apportionment, that's just a percentage applied to salaries. One big update is that PERSI rates are changing. Teacher certificated PERSI rates are increasing from 11.94 to 12.69. And actually classified PERSI rates are decreasing a little bit. The reason being, PERSI was looking at the entire investment plan, actuarials, things way over my level, but they're realizing, teachers are living longer. They're having to increase that rate to increase funding for that pension plan. So we are looking at a $6.4 million increase for state revenue for attendance-based funding. With enrollment-based funding, that would have been $10.9 million. So a significant gap in what we were hoping for. And then kind of our last slide brings back kind of what we showed for levy impacts. We have 2 comparisons, a scenario without a levy, and then a scenario with a $25 million levy. Our first row is kind of taking out that 20 million or adding in 5 million because our current levy amount is 20 million. And the 25 would be renewing that 25 or that $20 million levy. So we're adding in our possible state revenue increases. It's still early, so we can't bank on this, and we are a little worried about enrollment, especially incoming kindergarten. So we need to do a deep dive and study. It's just so unpredictable at this time. So it used to be kind of predictable. Pre-pandemic, we were pretty spot on with our support units. It's not the same. We were expecting to remain flat this year, and we weren't. We had a lot less kindergarteners. So it's just kind of a challenge especially for our region right now with increasing house prices. But we are going to try our best and do a deep analysis. We have a working deficit of 2.5 million, and that is from your, you can find that in your monthly finance statements. And we want to present what the cost would be if we were to increase our salary schedule by that 6,000. So that's 4.7 million. Classified pay start to $15 starting, restructuring that salary schedule would be 2.3 million. Giving that same 6,000, adding it on to each admin cell, because if you increase a current teacher cell by 6,000, now someone at the more experienced teacher on the salary schedule will be making more than an administrator at that point. And then we're also adding in kind of what a health insurance increase might look like. within the next couple weeks, we'll actually hear what it's going to be. We're projecting 5 to 10%. Guarantee you it's not going to be 5%. I've heard closer to the higher end. So we budgeted 7.5 for now, and that would be a little less than $1 million. So with the state funding, that puts us at a pretty healthy surplus, about $500,000. Now, there are some big inflation costs next year for the budget. Our utilities are continuing to go up. Tech cannot remain flat and continue to operate. So we are going to have to take a look at their budget and the plans or the projects that we do need to invest in. But not seeing a deficit is a good sign for right now. And maybe we can do a little bit for deferred maintenance and maintenance projects. The no levy option, we all know what kind of the impacts of that. So just wanted to give you an updated look as we head into our reviewing our FY24 budget in the next coming months.
On your classified estimate there for the $15 starting, is that manipulating that all the way through the schedule?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Kind of all those cells are raising. It's condensing.
Yeah, and it also factors in some longevity.
Okay. But does it go to a 12? I mean, is that cost to go to a 12-year cycle?
Yeah, it gets rid of that 7 to 12-year dead zone.
Yes.
So it goes all the way to 12 years. And then we've made a model with longevity factored in after that 12 years.
And that's what the 2.3 is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, the state revenue is almost covering that amount. So legislation really listened on that part.
Shannon, you mentioned deferred maintenance. We would still use the $5 million that we've set aside.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's one-time money and not ongoing. So we do need to make a plan for ongoing investment in deferred maintenance.
Clarification. So on the classified, you said the state is giving us money. So why are we subtracting it out then if they're going to cover that?
It's an overall look because I've added in state revenues up top, kind of an overall look of all the updates.
In the 64 or 6 million?
Yep, right here.
Okay, so that's inclusive of all those raises and all of that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Any additional questions? And Shannon, this is a random question that I'd meant to ask earlier when we were looking at our consent agenda items. I know the community right now is sending forth lots of different ideas and things that they want us to look at.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of chatter about pizza, and so could you maybe speak to, there was a recent large line item on our pizza budget.
So there's
and why?
Just looking at the line item, it's a little more than 11,000. So just totaling up. But that's a Pizza Hut contract, a bidded contract that's paid from our child nutrition fund. Jeff, would you like to speak maybe more to that contract? But that's our monthly cost for Pizza Hut ranges from like in a small month, maybe 7,000, and then anywhere up to 15,000. It kind of depends on the billing. Does it combine like 1.5 months? But that cost on the March expenditures was a little more than 11,000, adding all that up.
But that's the pizza that's sold at lunch.
This sold at lunch, yep, and it's through our child nutrition department that has a lot of nutritional guidelines. So, Jeff.
It's the whole wheat pizza.
Yeah, it is whole wheat pizza. And it is a bid contract. That contract, I believe, goes up for bid again. So for the next school year, they'll be under bid. A couple years ago, it was Domino's. Pizza Hut got the bid last time. So sometimes it goes back and forth with that. So we'll be looking at that again for next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. Any questions? We're happy to answer them. So
I appreciate it. It's not $1 million.
No. That's a lot of pizza.
It's a lot of pizza. It's a lot of money. So
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Shannon, thanks so much. It's a lot of information. Appreciate it. Thank you. We are on to our strategic plan update.
Let's go, Mike.
You got it.
You know, I'm a little long-winded, right?
That's what I'm afraid of.
Sorry for interrupting.
To the proposed strategic plan.
The legislative roadshow is on Thursday, the 20th.
20th.
I apologize. I thought Friday is always so fun. Legislative roadshow would make it more fun. So I'm so sorry. I will update those slides.
Evening, Chair Smith, Dr. Hawker, members of the board. Today, 8 weeks remaining in this school year. Incredible. And I've worked with a lot of talented colleagues over here, and their presentations were informative and detailed, but I think I've got the most important. In fact, you are entrusted to help lead our district. And I would probably say, of all of the things that you get to talk about, every 5-ish years, there's one that probably is where your greatest focus should be, and that's identifying the strategic plan for our district. It's time, and we have been listening over the past 8 months as we knew that the 2023 school year would be the last for our current strategic plan. This is also personally important. I've got a 7th grader, so that means that 5 years from now, he's going to graduate. And when we see him sitting there getting ready to throw that mortarboard, I want to know what my child is going to be asked to do. So we've come together because board policy asks us to regularly review our strategic plan. And knowing that this was that year, we've reached out to many stakeholders over the course of this year and simply asked the question, what do you want this district to look like? This is a community of warm demand. We heard it tonight. We'll hear it all the time. People are invested in the qualities of our students. They want our students to be successful. They want our students to achieve. I can assure you, though, that this was a listening process. We listened attentively. We took lots of notes. We had multiple versions and iterations that we passed along to many subgroups. And again, while we don't think that this is going to be perfect, we've heard that word tonight as well, we do feel that tonight we can present to you a best proposal of what we believe our next 5 years should look like in Coeur d'Alene Public Schools. And we can also commit to you that once it is approved, that it becomes a living part of our district. Our mission and vision should be said at our board meetings. We should be able to present to you regular updates as to how we're achieving all of our collective goals. That is what we're bringing for you tonight. So to be able to get there, let's take a few steps back. The past 6 years have been extremely challenging for Coeur d'Alene Public Schools. This is my 25th year in our district. And just in the past 5 years, we've seen a 40% turnover of district staff. We've seen 6 different superintendents. What we started with in 2018 with the hiring of Dr. Cook and moving through a new process ultimately elicited for us 3 focus areas: high quality engaged learning, intentional processes for curriculum and assessment, and facility improvements for modern learning. Now, over time, as we started developing that and passing bonds to update our high schools, to build Northwest Expedition Academy, it also became this blossoming plan. Trustee Anderton, you showed the 1 page. But if you put all of our pieces of our strategic plan together for the last 5 years, they total 830 pages of work. That's not something that we can really monitor. That's not something we can always get behind. There was so much nuance in it. It really was lost in the weeds. So we took what we thought really functioned within that time. And again, using the voices of our stakeholders, we started saying, well, what do we need? There are elements in our strategic plan that are still valid that we still talk about today. We started talking to these groups. We have groups of people in our district already. These are focus groups called our community partners and parent partners. Our parent partners are representatives from each of our PTAs from our district. Our community partners are resources from the service industry. Think United Way, think Hospice of North Idaho. We've talked to our students. We've talked to SAG. We've talked to our teachers and our staff. And these are some of the things that we took out of it. Yes, we actually are listening during board meetings. We're writing down what people are saying. These are the things that kept bubbling up to the top. And we did our very best in trying to take these words and these visions, in addition to the investments that we've had over these past 2 years in professional learning communities and high reliability schools, which you've been briefed at formally over the past several months, and tried to say, how can we take all of that into a simple, understandable, repeatable, and objective strategic plan? Ready to see it? All right. That wasn't very encouraging, but I'll do my best. I really thought that I had you built up, but I know it's a late night. I know it's late. So trying to encapsulate all of that together was really key. And we really tried to think about a vision of how it could look. Again, what could we do to take all of these pieces together? The most important thing that kept coming up is we need a target. We need something that everybody in this room and everybody sitting up there and everybody in every classroom in our district can get behind. We need a target. We need an overall goal. And the word that kept bubbling up on the previous slides that you probably noticed more than any was achievement. This community wants our students to be successful. That was paramount, and nobody could talk against it. So let's talk about achievement as our overall goal. That's our target. Achievement on the field, achievement on the court, achievement on the classroom, achievement in life. There it is. To be able to get there, well, we need something that's going to pierce through all kinds of different elements. Something that, those are called fletchings, by the way, the little ribbons that pierce through and have a laser focus to achievement. In trying to identifying the fletchings that we really wanted to, 5 core components kept coming up. And we present to you what we feel are the 5 goal areas that we would like to look at for our strategic plan. The first is encouraging community partnerships. We've got a little bit of a community problem right now. A lot of different talk and a lot of different vision about what Coeur d'Alene Public Schools is and what it can be. We need to bring the brain trust of this community together. We need to let people know the values, what we stand for, and how our kids are pursuing them every single day. We need to be transparent with how our kids are doing and how we're using our resources to be able to get there. And there are a lot of people with an amazing amount of knowledge in this community. We need to bring them into our fold to be mentors with our students. That's the idea around our first core area, encouraging community partnerships. The second, safe, supportive, and collaborative cultures. All of our schools and sites, they're safe, they're well maintained. But they also need to be a place that people are welcomed, where collaboration between all of our stakeholders is maximized for, again, the purpose of achievement. The third one that we wanted to focus on is what does effective teaching and learning look like? Our instructional framework was the core component of our previous strategic plan. And in talking with all of our teachers and administrators, they were so laser focused that that remain as our work. That we need to have high qualities of teaching and learning in every classroom. Fourth, evident student and teacher achievement. It's not just that our students have an equal opportunity to achieve their goals, but we need to also recognize the people who we have, who are doing excellent work, who are achieving advanced degrees, who are serving on statewide and national committees. We need to build up the prosody of our system, where all of our staff are highly regarded, whether they are a teacher, an administrator, or a member of our support staff. The final one is one that we hear quite a bit in our community: personalized college and career preparedness, where all of our students will receive a diploma, and moreover, they understand what they're going to do with it once they pass that stage. That they have the ability to graduate on time, and they have a plan for their future learning wherever that may take them. So, our administration definitely believes that these 5 core areas provide ample opportunity to engage our community, to involve everyone into our collaborative work, and to educate students and support the values that our community has always had. If this eventually becomes the 5 components of our strategic plan, it should be that all of our board agenda items reflect those 5 core areas, and that we, as a community, can identify what does that goal look like? What is an effective timeline? Who's going to be involved? And all of that become transparent in our work. In fact, right now, if you go to our district website, cdaschools.org/strategic plan, it's all one word, you have the ability to see some of this laid out with our vision. We didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we wanted to make some guarantees that this is something that is not just to pacify a state law or a board policy, that this is something ultimately that we believe in. We also have proposed for you tonight a new draft motto. You may remember the words that hung behind you for several years, and those were the words of invest, inspire, and innovate. While those words served us well, we heard over and over from our school community that there was just one other set of words that they tended to resonate with. And it was the words of Dr. Hocker in this beautiful sunny day back in August when we had all of our staff together at Lake City High School to welcome them back. It was the words with that were on all of those donated t-shirts of "Forward Together." We'd like to cement these words into our strategic plan. Forward Together, to us, reinforces our commitments to those we serve and what's expected of each of our employees, where we rely upon each other to support the needs of each student and ensure that they grow every month, ultimately achieving their academic and career goals, where we progress as a school district, coming together to review current practices and outcomes and bring all of the talents of this greater community together to improve and adapt to what occurs in dynamically changing times. Once that motto is there, and if it's something that we can get behind, then we also would like to propose to you a new mission statement and a new vision statement. Our mission statement attempts to identify the core purpose of Coeur d'Alene Public Schools. Here's what we've come up with. You'll notice some of the words that we've highlighted reflect back to those original pieces of feedback from all of those focus groups that we had. The proposed mission statement reads, "We ensure students become lifelong learners, accountable for their own learning as they develop the skills necessary to be responsible citizens in an ever-changing world." Some of the feedback from different committees said that it was great to see that the students are accountable for their future and not just that teachers are teaching them how to do something, that we need to prepare them for more than college. They felt that it aligns perfectly with the vision statement, as well as our instructional framework, as well as their own personal and professional beliefs. And they liked that it was more specific and that the word ensure is used. And it makes them feel like it's somewhat of a guarantee for students in this district. The last piece that we'd like to present to you tonight in draft form is a potential vision statement. This says, what do we want to see by the year 2028? By the end of this 5-year cycle, we've come up with, through the work of our students and faculty, we will be recognized as a high-achieving district of choice in Idaho and the Northwest. Used to be that you had one choice of where you were going to go to school. That's not the case anymore. The world is flat in education today. We feel that in the adage of, if mama ain't happy, no one's happy, if our kids are happy, our parents are happy, our community's happy, and we will ultimately be able to achieve our goals. People want to see that success in our district. You saw in the assessment report that Mrs. Summers put in last week's board notes, and you'll hear it again tonight. We're at number 2 in the state for achievement in a variety of ways. I don't know that anybody's holding up a banner that says we're number 2. That's not what this community demands. Our goal is to be the top, where people want to come and send their kids every day. This also carries our PLC and HRS language in it. It's important for clarity and consistent, and it focuses on the idea that every person involved plays a part in high achievement. So yes, that's what we've put out there. We've had multiple iterations, we've collected lots of feedback, but we'd also like to get some more feedback from the general population, who may or may not have connections to our system, who may have some other ideas of what we might be able to do. But again, we're trying to keep this very tight. Anybody can go right now to cdaschools.org strategic plan, and yes, Trustee Anderson, there's a one-page document there that has everything on it, including mission, vision, and our graphic. And there is a small survey that is there where anybody in this community can tell us how they're affiliated with our schools, see the old, see the new, and ultimately bring back some feedback. My goal is to be able to synthesize that all to you next month, where we would ask for your blessing and the cementing of our visual, motto, mission, and vision for the next 5 years. What do you think?
Are we going to send that feedback form out to our parents?
We can. We can
that'd be
send it out in any way you wish.
I mean, it'd be great to disseminate it. It's late.
You got it
as far as we can, but I think particularly it would be nice to hear back from our parents.
Understood. And we did receive quite a bit of feedback from parents. It was just through our parent partners and through their PTAs. It has not gone system-wide.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get, yeah.
Understood.
Any additional feedback for right now?
I like all your graphics.
Hope so. We're trying.
All right.
I like the 1- and 2-page options.
You will find a digital copy also in your Friday notes so that you can see what that looks like. And again, we are committed to making this something that we can all get behind. So we need your feedback as part of the group as well.
Dr. Hucker, Dr. Nelson mentioned the instructional framework, which is just maybe 50 of those 800 and something pages he referenced. So tell me about the other 750 pages. Is it Gone with the Wind?
They would retire with the plan. That plan expires in 2023. So are there pieces that are still valid? Absolutely. Are there things that we definitely need to kind of refocus? Absolutely. We are open to including it, but what, again, we're trying to really focus on is keeping it simple.
Right.
So the instructional framework will be revised, and it's going to be, again, a little bit tighter, and we're also going to bring in intervention practices as part of that, where we currently talk about how we want all of our classrooms to look, but we're also talking about making sure that every kid meets their goals. And we haven't done a great job over the past couple of years of focusing on when Johnny says or does something that we expect him to do, great. But what happens if Johnny can do it better than his classmates? How are we going to enhance Johnny's learning? And when Johnny needs support, what are the strategic steps that we're going to take to make sure that Johnny gets back on track? That would be something that we would present to you at a later time. But the core elements of the instructional framework, the teaching framework piece of it, would stay in place as requested.
Thank you.
Maybe this is a question for Dr. Hucker. given that we just heard from Shannon and the possibility of just looking at the framework for budgeting and that pieces, when and how does that, so that's also at the forefront of our mind as we look at our strategic plan, how does that overlay each other?
Great question, Chair Smith. As Shannon shared out, she's planning to head to a training next month, an all-day Saturday kind of a thing, I think it is, to get a better understanding of that work from that. Now it's late. I can't even remember the name of the company. But you can see, in order to make those comparables, you have to have a baseline. We have to determine what's important to us so that we can place value in funding those things over other things. That's the whole point of aligning the budget to the right work. And this will go perfectly hand in hand. If this strategic plan, which has already received a good amount, always can receive more, but has done the best we can under circumstances with public input throughout multiple committees that we've already shared it with. Once we get that relatively in place, then I think it'll be very seamless to compare that with our budgeting priorities over the next 5 years. And as Dr. Nelson shared out, allow us also to be accountable to sharing out, quarterly, monthly, yearly, whatever the reports are. We'll be able to show our progress towards this specific strategic plan. And a good plan is a 5-year-ish plan. It does take a little while to get going, and that gives us this checks and balance system. And then we'll revisit again. We may find that many of the components of this exact strategic plan, we want to run it again another 3 to 5 years. You may find that, okay, we've actually done some really great things. We've got some other things that become priority, and that's where our funding shifts to fund those. But this will allow us to make sure everything's in line with our strategic plan.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the curriculum audit, they called it performance-based budgeting, I think is the term they used, in trying to move us that way, that you're making decisions with an end goal in mind, where so often we aren't, right? We're making decisions to put out fires or to address this little thing or that little thing. It's a total mind shift, but it's important, I think, to get there and be able to do that work. So when you're evaluating this curriculum, well, how does that meet our goal to do X, Y, Z? And right now, that's not the way we're doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for all your work. All right, I believe our last student achievement update.
Good late evening, everybody. The good news is that you've seen a large portion of this presentation already in board notes, but I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of highlight some longitudinal data for the public as well, and then put in a couple of highlights, things that we've been doing very well with. So let me see if I can. So our objectives tonight are to just take a look at that longitudinal data. Trustee Anderton, you had asked at our last meeting if we could share out kind of 2015, 2018 to current data for our test scores. So you'll see that in here. You'll see some comparison of our data to Idaho districts that are our size. And then those surrounding us. One part of the data does even include Spokane and Montana, just because we felt like it would be nice to see not only in our state, but if we have something comparable outside the state, it's kind of nice to see that too. And then just a couple of things that have been highlighted recently, one in Idaho Education News and the other at the state level. We've crossed this bridge before, but just a quick reminder of our Idaho Reading Indicator is our state assessment for K-3 students in reading, although we do track our students K-5. So you'll see data K-5, but understanding that K-3 is where the state is looking to see proficiency. So longitudinally, you'll see at the top our district K3 from school year 2018 to school year 22, spring of 22 last year. Noticing that spring of 2020, we were not in attendance, so therefore we didn't have spring data that year. And then below is state data, school year 2018 to 2022. So you can kind of compare where the state sat fall, spring versus where Coeur d'Alene School District sat. And in nearly every instance, you can see that we are ahead of the state average. Questions about that? Comments? Here is a statewide comparison from last spring. You can see that we are, as Dr. Nelson said, number 2, which I try to make a point of never being number 2, but there we are. I think that it's kind of interesting to note that as our district is looking at high reliability schools and professional learning community work, the school district that is really invested in that work in the state of Idaho is West Ada, and they happen to be number 1. And I'm a pretty competitive person, so I'd like to see us jump ahead of that. We have some work to do. That's a big gain in 10%, but I think that we can. And I really do like to see us side by side with those districts that are similar. Questions about that?
Heather, back to the previous slide. Am I right in seeing just even our district growth from fall to spring? I mean,
Yes.
those seem pretty significant jumps in numbers from,
Yes.
I mean, 63 to 79%. Those are,
Yes.
speak to that a little bit. I mean, it just seems like it's a testament to.
It is a testament. It's a testament
things
to
we're
a lot
doing.
of things that we do, particularly at the elementary level. Every school looks individually at student data, and that happens on a very continuous and strategic way. So even with our iStation growth checks each month, teachers are sitting down and looking at that work side by side with students, even from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade, and talking about where they can set a goal for themselves. I would be hard-pressed to find an elementary teacher who couldn't tell you individually what each of their students is doing, and then as a grade level, and then as a school. So there's a lot of work that goes into this. And when we talk about, Dr. Nelson talks about individualizing our education, how do we move kids forward who are already there, and how do we support those who aren't quite there yet? That happens daily in the classroom, by the classroom teacher, with our interventionists in our schools. We've invested in reading intervention and early literacy. All Day K is a great example of how we can move those kiddos. Other questions? I would like to say, though, that if you sat down with principals looking at this data, all of them would say that they'd still see room to grow. We celebrate our growth because it's huge, but we also look at the fact that we still have 12% of our 3rd graders who didn't reach proficiency. So it's an ongoing process of looking at who made it, who didn't, why, and how do we hone the skill to get everybody there. This is just background on what our ISAT tests are presented by Smarter Balance. We do start the Idaho Standards Achievement tests in the 3rd grade, and they go all the way up now to 11th grade. So we have a lot of data about students. What I want to mention is that it's important that we're not only looking at one data source ever, though. Teachers triangulate their data all the time. We're looking at a state level test. In a little bit, I'll show just a quick highlight of a national test, but we're always looking at what's happening in the classroom versus on a growth check, versus on a diagnostic, versus on a state level summative test. And they all have their own purpose, but they all inform our practice. Longitudinal ISAT data in all grades tested. This year, just an interesting side note, the state has moved the 10th grade testing to the 11th grade. So that's always fun when you're trying to put your data together, and we really want to see some comparable data, but we keep moving either grade levels or we change the test. So this next year you will see, or this spring, you will see 11th grade ISAT data for students rather than 10th.
So did those kids take it 2 years in a row? Fun.
Yes, he did.
They're just making sure you're still awake, Jake, so glad you are.
They do. Yep. Questions, comments? Again, I would tell you the same thing. Our teachers are always looking at their students' data. And do we have room to improve? You bet we do. However, again, when you look at us versus state, we still are above the average in nearly all areas and all grades. So that's language arts. This is math. I think we've talked a lot at the district level about our mathematics achievement and things that we want to see. And I think if we look at this, we would all say, wow, we have a lot of work to do. But I would also want to point you to the state averages and look at where we are as a state. It's kind of difficult for me personally even to say, but the state is there too, when I know that our expectation for our kids is much higher than this. So I would say this is an area of where we have a lot of room to grow.
So Heather, I keep getting questions from parents about our scores and to be able to see this data. And one of the things that's been pointed out to me that I can see, we can all see right here is, I know that our testing and our metrics changed moving into 2014, 2016 timeframe. And that seems to be a big reason why our scores from before that time are different than comparing to our scores now. But let's look at 2016 to 2022, when, let's say, our 3rd grade, 65% to 60%. 4th grade, 66% to 61%. Why are we not seeing an upward trend in that with them having had the time to learn how to take these tests and our teachers to be able to teach to these tests?
Well, we had a thing for a minute out there, a couple of years, and if you look at our data, you'll see that we did kind of have a rough patch in there when we had our pandemic. But you can see 2021 was lower, and we've jumped back up to 59% in 2022. And our hope is that this year, right, we'll see us climb even further out of that.
I guess I can even look at pre-pandemic though, and 65 to 55, 61, 53. Right now I'm looking at the ISAT data for language arts.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry, and then
that's okay. I'm on mathematics.
And then I was still stuck on the language arts side.
Yeah.
And then, pre-pandemic for mathematics, still 67, 62, 61, 58. Percentage-wise, I would think that we would be seeing an upward trend before the pandemic. And then I guess since pandemic time, we have seen some uptick in some places.
Right.
Others not so much. So I'd love to hear more as to why that is or what we can do to.
I think there's a lot we can do. I think when we're looking at this, I mean, I really do think we need to spend some time breaking down the ISAT testing itself is one thing that I think we need to spend some time digging into and understanding each strand of each part of that test. This year, teachers have been working on getting together, looking at those standards and understanding what proficiency looks like for that. I think we need to do and we are working on common formative assessments so that we can come together as every third grade teacher teaching every third grade student, and we know what that proficiency looks like. I think that we need to take time to really work together to move kids forward, which is the opposite of what Mike said, and he said forward together. Just want to point that out. But we have a lot of work to do in mathematics to move forward.
Heather, really quick, could you speak? And I wonder if this identifies it just a little bit, and maybe Katie needs to speak as well, because
anybody
right
can jump in
about
if you have anything
right
to
about
add.
2019 though, didn't the district do a bunch of math work to come together to really re-envision how we do that? I remember that was just about the time I came on the board, and some of that work had already been done, and so
I would say probably more at the secondary level
is
than
that
at
more
the
secondary
elementary.
than elementary? Okay.
Yeah, and I honestly should know the answer to this, but I don't know what year we changed curriculum and moved to iReady either. Do you?
It's 2015.
2015. Okay. Anybody want to add?
So maybe it was just secondary,
conversation?
not elementary.
Secondary was 19, I believe, or 20.
Secondary math, we started bringing together math teachers in 2019, 2020 through our secondary math academy to do a lot of this essential standards work and to start really refining what it is that we want to make sure that we're teaching at each level. We had previously gone through the process of, prior to that, had gone through the process of this integrated approach to mathematics, and so we really wanted to finalize what it looked like at each level, because interestingly enough, math standards exist for high school but not exactly for each level, so you can kind of approach it differently. So that's how we handled it in secondary, and then we did have some interruptions in spring of 2020 and a little bit in 2021 too, but we did keep working through all of those things and are continuing to strive to bring teams together.
I think for me, kind of the one piece that's missing, Allie, like if you ask me that question, and that I think is missing from the strategic plan, I think it's there kind of hidden, but is this idea, and I think it used to be in our Invest, Inspire, Innovate, but this high expectations for all. And what I believe as someone who's lived here a long time is we have lowered our standards and our rigor over time. And to me, that's what we see. And I think there's been some correction to that. But I see the PLC work and the high reliable schools work kind of digging into that, where you're developing these essential standards and what are the must-knows. And to me, that's where we need the most work. And I think that's what's missing in the strategic plan that I saw tonight is how do we, I mean, it's there, but it's kind of hidden in there. So to me, I think that's a big component of it. And how do you address some of this is we got to expect more, right? That's part of it. And
I agree with that. We definitely need to increase our rigor. When I look at this, I see just not a lot of movement. It's basically static. It's just the same across the way. So regardless of the effect that COVID had, we all know that had an effect, even 2 years now, we're still not seeing that climb that we really want to see.
Yeah.
So yes, standards are great too, but I think increasing our rigor, our expectations, making sure they're getting clear instruction with great curriculum too, we'll start to see an increase.
I just want to say one quick thing about professional learning communities. I came from a district in Nevada where my school we used professional learning communities to work together to see our kids achieve, and we really, really did. And it was a school of 100% free and reduced lunch.
I came from a district like that as well, with high free reduced lunch.
Yep.
Very diverse population, and we were a very data-driven district. So we made huge strides because everyone was on board, looking at that data, still making learning fun, but that data piece was something, it was part of the culture, and that was something that we completely worked on.
And
So
that arrow that
Mike's
Dr. Nelson had,
focus,
yes.
we all need to be
Yes.
more focused on.
Crystal clear about what proficiency looks like. And then those questions of what if they don't understand it? What if they already do? How do we move those kids forward that already understand it? And how do we pick up those kids that don't? So I know that probably feels like a bit of a plug for PLC, but Dr. Hawker and I didn't know each other when I moved here, back here. And I just have to say that I'm so excited about that work because I know when a group of educators get together with a very clear focus, they will move this needle and we will see change here. So I truly believe that, and I've seen it. We did it. That little 100% free and reduced school was a blue ribbon school. So I know that it can be done. Here are state comparisons for spring 2022, and I'm sorry that it's white. I probably needed to make the percentages up there black so that you could actually see them, but you can see the bar. The green is English language arts, the blue is mathematics, and the yellow is science. And it kind of needs to be noted that this was the first year that we had science data, so it's comparatively speaking, it's new out there. We did throw Spokane in there, probably because they're like fifth from the bottom, but if they were on top, we probably wouldn't have. I just want to make that clear. But it felt good to put, And then Kalispell, Montana's in there too. The state of Idaho is just below Post Falls and above Bonneville. So you can get a picture of where we are, comparatively speaking, to the state. And it is relevant. I mean, we know we have work to do, but it is relevant to see that we are still high achieving, and it's relevant to say that I think we can surpass West Data if we really put our work in with PLCs and high reliability schools. I think we can. So. These are just a couple of highlights. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, here's a little blip on what that is. We call it the NAEP. It is a random sampling of grade levels in the nation that we are federally mandated to participate in. So typically it's about 2 or 3 schools, like in the 4th grade in our district, will participate, and they'll pull a random sampling of kids from that grade level. It's 4th grade in elementary, it's 8th grade in middle school, and is it 11th or 10th, Mike? 11th at the high school level. This is just a bit of a pretty exciting highlight for us. 8th grade math NAEP scores. You can see some longitudinal data there from 2011 until now, but in 2022, out of 50 states, 0 were significantly higher than Idaho. 11 were not significantly different, and 39 were significantly lower. So when I talk about triangulating data, this is kind of what I'm talking about is we're always looking at, this is one normed assessment that's taken nationwide, and we want to see how do we stack up in different areas. That plus our ISAT, plus our iStation, iReady, plus classroom assessments, Common Formative, that all builds a really nice picture of our students and their learning. So I thought that was interesting. It's also interesting to note that we never get district level data back from the NAEP. It's never given to us. It's always at a state level score. So in both mathematics and reading, Idaho's 8th grade scores are among the top in the nation. And then I did put the link to the article here down at the bottom so you can read the whole thing. But among the best performing schools in the state, number 4, Sorensen Magnet of Arts and Humanities, and number 10, Hayden Meadows Elementary. All elementaries in the state of Idaho using this criteria, these data points, and this weighted score up here. So I think that's pretty exciting news that we know that we can see it. And if Sorensen and Hayden Meadows can, then I think any of our schools can. So this working together, right? This common formative assessment, this professional learning community work, when we get our heads together, we'll be able to move those things. Questions?
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for hanging in there. Couple of quick announcements. Some of us I know are meeting early in the morning for a celebration breakfast at 6:45. And tomorrow we'll see everyone, all the trustees, right back here at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, so for a special board meeting. And then we have a list of other upcoming special board meetings, all having to do with our levy funding. April 18th, we have a special board meeting here at 5 p.m. April 21st, a special board meeting here at 12 o'clock p.m. May 8th, a regular board meeting at 5 p.m. here. May 17th, a special board meeting here as well. May 22nd, then our board workshop. Thank you everyone for all of your participation and for your support. All right, have a great night. What's left of it.